My name is Meng Yuking, and I woke up totally panicking. Picture this: 1 second I'm just walking, a brick smacks my forehead, and boom, I'm stuck on a massive branch 20 meters up. These trees were absolutely gigantic, bigger than anything I'd ever seen. Definitely an unknown forest. I screamed out for help, but only scared off a flock of birds from the branches. But wait, these weren't normal birds. They were completely massive, with razor-sharp claws and hooked beaks, easily big enough to snatch me. I hugged the trunk, staying completely silent. I touched my forehead. Zero pain, no wound at all, but that brick hit me. This made absolutely no sense. Giant trees, bizarre birds, missing injury. I read enough web novels to know exactly what just went down. Classic isekai, transported to another world. I grabbed a thick vine, tied it tight, and slowly started climbing down. Then, the leaves below rustled loudly. Something big, black, and incredibly fast was climbing right toward me. A gigantic black panther suddenly popped out. Its head was just unbelievably huge. I screamed, desperately scrambling back up, but the beast slammed its massive claws on both sides of me. Hot, heavy breath washed over my neck. Watch what happens next. I closed my eyes expecting the worst, but instead, he just gently sniffed and tugged my collar. Then, a bright, energetic young voice suddenly spoke. "Can you let go of that vine? I cannot carry you down like this." The panther was literally talking. Words actually came out. I stared in pure shock and whispered, "You are a monster." "A monster? What is that?" The panther tilted his head, green eyes glowing with curiosity. Weirdly, him talking instantly calmed my nerves. A thinking creature means we can actually reason and talk it out. I let go, and he gently grabbed my collar, zooming down that huge tree at absolute lightning speed. Hitting solid ground, I honestly almost cried tears of pure relief. "What tribe are you from? Where are your beast men?" he calmly asked. Tribes? Beast men? I had absolutely zero clue what that meant. The panther introduced himself as Shin, and I quickly shared my name. Hearing I had no tribe, Shin's eyes softened with real pity. Using a super gentle voice to avoid scaring me, he happily invited me to join his people. He proudly hyped up his people: strong beastmen, sweet sub-beasts, and highly skilled gatherers. I hardly understood half of it, but his warmth was totally genuine. Still, I definitely didn't dare to ask too many questions right now. Saying the wrong thing could bring bad news. So I played along, keeping my head down, letting Shin think I survived something incredibly awful. That wasn't totally a lie. Getting hit by a brick into a bizarre new world is genuinely a pretty awful experience. Right in the middle of my sad act, my empty stomach growled incredibly loudly. I blushed bright red, but Shin didn't mind at all. He immediately offered a safe spot and promised to hunt some food. When Shin reached for my collar again, I panicked and quickly stopped him. I almost choked last time. "You and I know this was awkward." I grabbed the fabric behind my waist and turned around. Shin carefully bit down there instead. "Honestly, way better." He growled low to signal our departure. I said I was ready, and boom, we suddenly shot forward like actual lightning. The massive trees totally blurred past us. All I could literally do was hang on. Shin ran insanely fast, violently bouncing my body every step. My stomach churned hard, and I clamped both hands over my mouth, desperately fighting the nausea. Thankfully, that wild ride only lasted 10 minutes. The second Shin dropped me, I doubled over, aggressively dry heaving on the ground. Shin totally panicked, anxiously circling me while lifting and lowering his massive paws helplessly. I weakly waved him off, begging for just a minute. We had parked right in front of a hidden cave, behind some thick, leafy vines. It was 3 meters tall, totally invisible to me. Sean explained it was a special hunter rest stop, and the heavy beastmen scent completely kept all the dangerous animals far away. He ordered me to stay hidden inside, keep totally quiet, and wait for him to bring food. Walking deeper, this cave was huge, super tall, extremely wide, and stretching endlessly back into the total darkness. Surprisingly clean with zero bad smells. Sean poked his giant head in, gave a reassuring nod, promised to hurry back, and then vanished. I heard him circling the entrance a few times, marking his territory for that sweet extra layer of safety. Alone now, I crept further back to hide myself better. Suddenly, a cold, robotic voice echoed straight inside my head. Binding candidate detected. Do you wish to bind with the tribe upgrade system? I shook my head, assuming I was losing my mind, but it repeated my name. An actual system. Just like those web novels. A late cheat power. But I never asked for this. I loved my old life perfectly fine, so my first reaction was pure suspicion. I flat out asked, did you bring me here? Is this your doing? The system replied in its cold, totally emotionless tone. It claimed I was the perfect match, and yes, it brought me here. Trust me, we are in for a wild ride. Let's dive right into this wild, ice-gay journey. Passing away? That word totally hit our hero like a ton of bricks. He completely refused to believe it. He was super healthy. A random brick shouldn't have finished him off. But the system calmly explained that after falling unconscious on the sidewalk, a wild drunk driver totally lost control and crashed into the crowd before anyone could move him to safety. No words could argue with that. His whole body just shook. Being an only child, his parents loved him immensely. If he was really gone forever, they would be absolutely devastated beyond words. He completely covered his eyes. This strange cave was pitch black, and the glowing system just kept repeating its annoying question over and over. Would he bind? Then, boom, it clicked. This crazy system brought him here, and literally gave him a brand new body. With that kind of insane power, maybe it could send him back home. He instantly jumped on the idea. Send him back. He didn't care about epic adventures or being some hero. Sadly, the system's blunt answer instantly cooled down his excitement. It clearly stated that once it reached max level and gathered enough energy, it would finally unlock the awesome ability to travel between worlds. He could pick any point in time to return. But first, he absolutely had to bind with it and help this thing level up completely. Absolutely no shortcuts allowed. He laughed bitterly. Could he really say no? Since this was his only ticket home, he had zero choice. Fine, he agreed to bind. The exact second he did, incredible warm energy wrapped around his entire body, sinking deep inside him. So amazing. Even his soul trembled with pure comfort. System binding successful. Please join or build a tribe to unlock full features. Suddenly, a cool semi-transparent screen popped up right in front of his eyes. Now pay attention here. The menu showed 6 options, but only Explore and Identify glowed. Explore covered 50 meters. Identify had 3 charges, refreshing every 5 days. The other 4 sections, completely grayed out and locked completely tight. He frowned immediately. Wait, no experience bar? How would he track level ups? The system then patiently explained its totally unique mechanics. This was no basic game. It judged the tribe's overall growth, population, prosperity, military power, and other combined epic factors. Every 4 months, it would grade the tribe's awesome progress and offer tips. Hiding the progress bar was totally intentional, stopping him from taking cheap shortcuts or developing the tribe in harmful, unbalanced ways, like spamming military power or ruthlessly raiding other innocent tribes. It added, almost sensing his massive doubt, that as long as the tribe grew positively, the system would naturally absorb tons of energy and level up on its own. Stalling progress would actually hurt the system too, so it wouldn't cheat him. He reluctantly nodded at the solid logic. Those were pretty words, but he decided to watch its actions before actually trusting it completely. For the first quest, joining or creating a tribe, he instantly crossed out creating. He was totally alone. He couldn't turn into a powerful beast, and had 0 survival skills. Building from scratch was absolutely impossible. Joining Shin's tribe was the smartest move. From what he could see, Shin fiercely loved his people and took massive pride in his wild roots. Any tribe raising a guy like him had to be an awesome place. Rubbing his forehead, he sat in the dark, desperately hoping Shin would return soon. While organizing all these wild thoughts, He suddenly heard strange rustling right near the cave entrance. He completely tensed up to hide, but thankfully, Shin's massive head pushed right through the thick vines. I am back now, Meng Yuqing. He stumbled over the name. You and I know why. Beastmen use one syllable, while sub-beasts always use exactly two. So, his three-syllable name totally threw the big guy off. He finally breathed easy. While Shin was gone, he had been super anxious. Earlier, he saw massive wild beasts totally scattering out of this powerful panther's extremely mighty path. Any of them could have easily taken him out. Remembering how he screamed for help while stuck in that giant tree, he violently shuddered. He was incredibly lucky Shin found him. Shin brought two massive leaves. One held super clean raw meat, the other overflowed with colorful, fist-sized glowing fruits. I will roast this awesome meat. Eat some fruit first, to hold your hunger, he offered. Before our hero could process how a giant panther cooks anything, Shin stepped back, and his massive body instantly started shrinking. His entire shape magically blurred and shifted until a handsome young man stood right there. He was really tall, boasting shoulder-length jet black hair, and stunningly perfect honey-colored, glowing skin. His incredible build was lean, but super powerful. You could literally feel the explosive hidden strength. His sharp, wild face was strikingly handsome, with those signature glowing green eyes under messy bangs. Trust me, you are going to love him. Basically a human panther, totally beautiful and wildly dangerous. Picking up the food, he walked into the cave, pausing to give a totally confused look. Our guy was staring, rubbing his nose super awkwardly. He quickly followed Shin inside. It had gotten totally dark outside. Shin quickly grabbed dry wood from the back, struck two cool stones together, and got a cozy fire going. Stick with me. You are about to watch one wild, ice-gay adventure unfold. He handed me two fruits, refusing my offer to share. He claimed he already hunted a small critter before finding me. He would not need another bite until tomorrow. Then he looked me over, bluntly stating I was way too thin and weak. I glanced down at my own body, completely offended. I stood 180 centimeters tall, with solid muscle. I could carry my heavy roommate easily. Thin and weak. Swallowing my pride, I asked when we were heading to his tribe. Shin's face completely scrunched up. My heart instantly dropped. Did he change his mind about bringing me along? Finally, he explained everything. He was actually out here alone for his legendary coming-of-age hunt. He was tracking a shadow beast, incredibly powerful and cunning. He managed to hurt it, but the beast escaped. It was circling the area for days, completely dodging him. We were 5 days away from his tribe. If he brought me back now, that elusive shadow beast would vanish for good. He looked super nervous, terrified. I would be furious that he prioritized his epic hunt over my immediate safety. I totally understood. A coming-of-age hunt sounded like a massive deal. Now watch closely. This is where their bond shifts. I offered to wait and actually help him out. Shin's eyes went huge, completely caught off guard. He explained the shadow beast was already injured. He just needed to pinpoint its exact location and would handle the fight soon. His ears turned bright red. He quickly looked away, staring intensely at the meat sizzling over the fire, golden oil dripping down its tasty surface. It smelled absolutely incredible. Shin handed me a massive piece once it finished cooking. No salt or seasoning at all. I hesitated for a second, but my empty stomach definitely won. I took a huge bite. It was delicious, slightly sweet, super juicy, with the rich natural flavor. I told Shin it was great, and he practically glowed with absolute joy. He proudly bragged about being the best cook in his entire tribe. Everyone always begged him to roast meat for them. He sincerely apologized for forgetting to bring salt stones on this solo trip. He acted like a giant cat getting pet perfectly. Well, he literally was a big cat. He tried giving me another piece, but I was totally stuffed. He stared in pure disbelief. I only ate one piece. I burped out loud to prove my point. He finished the rest, then gave me this incredibly tender look. You really need to eat more food. You and I both know that overprotective vibe, right? He sounded so worried. I nodded frantically to escape that intense look. After cleaning up, Shin brought in massive armfuls of dry grass, spreading it all across the cave floor for me. It felt surprisingly comfortable, but when I lay down, noticed Shin heading right outside instead of resting. "Where are you going? It is late. I will sleep at the entrance. You rest inside." He walked right out, transformed into his epic panther form, and lay across the opening. His massive body blocked the entire entrance. Only a tiny sliver of moonlight peeked through. I told him to come inside so he would not catch a cold. He seemed amused and puzzled. He explained his beast form stayed warm enough, and he absolutely needed to stay transformed to keep us safe at night. Then he muttered that I clearly lacked some basic survival common sense in this world. He closed his eyes and settled down. I watched him for a while, eventually gave up, and relaxed back onto my cozy grass bed. Waking up in a tree, meeting a talking panther, realizing my old life was over, and finding a mysterious system, I was completely drained. The very moment my eyes closed, sleep completely pulled me under. When I finally woke up, the fire was completely out, and Sean was already gone. Next to the leftover fruits, he added a massive pile of fresh ones picked that morning. I ate a few and decided to use this peaceful, quiet time to figure out my awesome system. I called out softly, and the system answered right away. It told me I did not even need to speak out loud. I could just communicate right in my head. What a huge relief. The last thing I needed was Sean catching me talking to thin air. I tested the explore function first. The system scanned a 50-meter radius and reported 0 threats nearby. It also found special wound closing grass 10 meters west of the cave entrance. Using the identify function, learned it could instantly seal injuries and greatly reduce swelling. I gathered all those herbs quickly, rushed back inside, and carefully set them on a leaf next to my fruits. The explore function only worked once a day. Because of that, I totally did not dare stay outside any longer, even if I grew insanely bored inside this cave. I was definitely not the type to risk my safety over simple restlessness. Sean returned around midday. He dropped off a huge chunk of meat, roasted it, watched me eat, and vanished again. He looked incredibly anxious. He was still hunting that elusive shadow beast. So what do you and I take from this? I wanted to help, but my system was far too weak, leaving me helpless in this wild new world. Let's dive right in. My best move was staying put and avoiding trouble. By evening, Sheen returned in beast form, carrying way more food than before. Sitting by the fire in human form, he shared some news. He had found fresh tracks, the exact shadow monster trail from the night before. He felt totally confident about its hiding spot now. He announced he was going after it tomorrow and wouldn't be returning by midday. He prepared enough food for 2 days, warning me to never leave the cave. If things went well, we would head to the tribe afterward. I nodded, telling him not to worry about me, just focus on the big hunt and stay safe. Scratching his head, he happily added that he would clear the area around our cave one last time. Before heading out in the morning, I playfully shooed him to bed since he needed strength. He walked outside, transformed, and curled up right at the entrance, like always. Lying on my grass bed, I hoped everything would go smoothly. Bright and early the next day, Sheen headed out. I stayed safely in the cave and waited patiently. I didn't see the outside events, but later, when Sheen finally returned, I pieced the whole mystery together from his wild condition and a few things he actually told me. He tracked the shadow beast by following the distinct scent of a freshly hunted animal. The shadow beast was clever. It scattered its scent in every single direction to easily confuse any pursuer. But Sheen kept his cool. He figured that after completely gorging on fatty meat, the beast definitely needed water. So, he headed straight for the nearest lake. He was absolutely right. The trail led him closer and closer. Watch closely now. The shadow beast ambushed from the side. Sheen dodged at the last second, getting his first clear look at it. A massive creature with gray-black fur, a long snout, and a super thick tail. He recognized that old scar running across its face. He had seen this monster exactly 10 years ago. That was precisely why he refused to drop the hunt. He would never let it escape. They clashed intensely, claws ripped through thick fur. Sheen managed to pin it down, but the massive creature was bigger and fought back with wild energy. Every strike Sean landed on the shadow monster earned him fresh, heavy battle scars too. Neither held back. They crashed through thick bushes, rolled across the ground, and finally tumbled into the lake together. The water darkened. The fierce fight dragged on. Finally, everything went completely still. Sean emerged from the lake, dragging the shadow beast behind him. He was drenched and exhausted, with heavy battle marks covering his entire form. He dropped the beast on the shore, sat down, looked toward the sky, and let out a roar so loud and raw it echoed through the entire forest. Like a massive weight he had carried for years was finally lifted away. I sat by the fading fire, staring at the dark sky outside our cave. It was midnight, and Sean still had not returned. I just could not sleep. The way he talked about the shadow beast before leaving, his voice sounded completely different from usual, much heavier. It made me quite uneasy. Before he left that morning, he had cleared the area around our cave again and marked it with his scent. I also used my daily explore scan after dark. The system confirmed nothing dangerous was nearby, but honestly, that did not stop me from worrying. Then I heard it, something super heavy dragging across the ground, accompanied by slow, thudding footsteps. I froze. System, explore, I whispered, extinguishing the fire instantly and firmly pressing my back against the cave wall. The system reported the creature had not entered the 50-meter range yet. It was still actively scanning. You and I both know this feeling. 20 minutes of pure waiting. Then the system spoke again. Whatever lurked out there was strong enough to completely destroy me. The system used some precious energy to perfectly hide my presence, masking my scent, my body heat, literally everything. It warned me not to move, since movement costs extra energy. It also gently reminded me this was borrowed power. I must pay it back by completing daily tasks and actively developing a tribe. I held perfectly still, barely breathing, anxiously listening to the heavy footsteps get closer and closer. Finally, the system confirmed the target entered range. It was Shin. I nearly collapsed with pure relief. I told the system to drop the hiding and ran outside. Shin's massive panther form was barely visible in the dark. He was dragging something truly enormous in his jaws, the fallen beast. He was walking very slowly and unsteadily. Seeing me step out, he paused briefly, then pushed himself to walk slightly faster. He stopped roughly 5 meters away, dropped the prize with a heavy thud, swayed on his feet, adjusted his balance, and slowly sat down. I waved the dust away and called out cheerfully, telling him I saved some warm roasted meat to try. But as I pushed through the tall grass and got close, the happy words vanished from my throat. He was covered in heavy battle scars, big ones, small ones, everywhere. His shoulder had 2 deep, dark holes that were still oozing. His beautiful coat, the one looking like pure black silk, was matted and fully clumped with dried crimson patches. Trust me, this part hits hard. His heavy breathing echoed, low whimpers escaping his throat. Seeing my worried stare, he slowly lowered himself to the ground. I reached out, gently touching his forehead. You and I are jumping right in. His fur was super soft, sticky with red splatter, but totally fine. You're awake? Did I disturb you? He whispered, resting his heavy head on giant paws. Couldn't sleep, I replied. I was super worried. He told me to rest. He had to process the shadow beast tomorrow and bring it back whole. Should he rest first? What about those injuries? It's really nothing, he insisted. Just surface scratches. 1 night's sleep, and I'm fine. Who are you kidding? I lightly tapped his forehead. You could barely even stand when you finally got back. He finally confessed. He rushed straight back after the hunt, completely exhausted, just because he feared leaving me alone outside overnight. His tail gave a guilty little twitch, clearly feeling awful for leaving me. Honestly, that small gesture hit me straight in the heart. We had only known each other for 3 days. I just tagged along purely to survive. I hadn't even promised to join his tribe yet. Watch closely here. This giant panther dragged a massive carcass through the pitch dark, completely exhausted, solely because he was terrified something bad might happen to me. I opened my mouth to speak, but froze. What could I even say? That he shouldn't have bothered? That I wasn't worth the trouble? Just wait right here, I finally managed. I sprinted into the cave and grabbed the wound ceiling grass I had picked a bit earlier. I asked the system how to use it. Just crush and apply to wounds. Stepping back outside, I compared this gigantic panther to the tiny handful of herbs in my palm. Honestly, it looked completely, pathetically small. I asked Sheen to switch to his human form. He did. The tall guy with black hair and green eyes appeared. In this form, the injuries looked way worse. The shoulder wound looked like something had bitten completely through. I stuffed a few herb stalks into my mouth, chewed them into paste, and pressed it directly onto his wounded shoulder. System alert. Medicinal herbs found. Closes injuries rapidly and prevents infection. Might sting slightly. Sheen watched in pure surprise, but stayed totally still. These herbs worked magic. Within seconds, his terrible shoulder injury closed up completely. I chewed up every last bit, covering as many scratches as physically possible. When I finally finished, he just stared at me intensely. You know medicine? A shaman? No, you're way too young. A shaman's apprentice. I frantically waved my hands to stop him. I had zero clue what a shaman even meant here. Claiming that title could totally backfire. But you know about herbs, right? He leaned forward, eyes shining with excitement. Maybe just a little, I mumbled. With the system around, it wasn't exactly a lie. That answer hyped Shin up so much he leaped to his feet, happily circling me a few times before finally sitting back down. Then his face turned serious. I really want you in our tribe, but I'll respect whatever choice you make. Please consider us carefully. It hit me then he had totally noticed my vague, non-committal response the first time he invited me. You saw that too, right? He saw through my hesitation, never got mad, and just kept protecting me anyway. I felt super guilty. Looking into his eyes, I spoke honestly. I can't answer you yet. I need to see the tribe for myself first. But, Shin, you're an amazing guy, and I truly believe your tribe is great. I just need to experience it firsthand. He looked slightly disappointed, but quickly recovered. I understand. Absolutely no pressure. If we don't suit you, I know other nearby tribes. I'll happily take you there, Shin. Honestly, thank you so much. He smiled, stood up, and smoothly shifted right back into his massive panther form. He gently nudged me, signaling me to sleep. I honestly couldn't resist reaching out to pet his big head one last time. Even with his matted, heavily stained fur, I just kept thinking how amazing it would feel once his coat returned to normal, silky perfection. His ears twitched awkwardly, but he totally let me do it. I headed inside, crashing on my grass bed while Shin guarded the cave entrance like always. Lying there, I realized something. Unless his tribe was an absolute nightmare, staying there with a guy like him actually sounded pretty awesome. A tribe raising someone like Shin had to be a totally decent place. I yawned loudly. It would be dawn soon enough, and tomorrow was gonna be super busy. I closed my heavy eyes and let sleep finally take me. I woke up to the amazing smell of roasting meat. Shin was already in human form, cooking by the fire. The sun was super high, almost noon. I felt totally embarrassed for sleeping so late, but Shin just brushed it off. He said, I stayed up late and really needed the rest. I quickly checked his injuries. The spots I treated with herb paste were healing way better than the untreated ones, which still looked angry and swollen. Beastmen naturally heal fast, but I really wanted to find more herbs for those remaining injuries. Sean shook his head, saying medicine was far too rare and precious to waste on such small scratches. He wanted to save whatever we found for the tribe. That totally shocked me, so I quietly questioned the system about it. Are herbs rare here? Nope, plenty of them. Beastmen just don't recognize them. You and I know this changes absolutely everything. Let's jump in. I asked about shamans next since Sean mentioned it yesterday. The system explained a shaman was basically the knowledge keeper of a tribe. Someone who remembered and passed down everything their people learned over many generations. Healing herbs were included, but since everything was just taught by speaking, That valuable knowledge faded away way too easily. Different tribes knew completely different things based on their past. I asked if shamans dealt with magical stuff. The system's voice turned super cold out of nowhere and said absolutely not. I had no clue how I upset it, but apparently my system only believed in hard science. Hilarious, considering getting magically transported to another world is not exactly scientific at all. Still, being a shaman was just about gathering facts instead of casting spells. This could totally be my path. After eating, followed Sean outside. The giant shadow beast lay near the cave, covered in something to completely hide its scent. Looking at it up close for the first time, realized it was way bigger than Sean. Dark fur, sharp claws, fangs longer than my whole hand. Absolutely terrifying. Sean tied the huge beast up with thick vines, shifted into his panther form, and tried carrying it. I jumped in to secure everything with extra vines. Once he felt good about the weight, he shifted back to human form. I quickly noticed we had plenty of leftover vines. Now watch closely. A genius idea hit me. My grandma used to weave rope bags. Since I was basically a giant item being carried around, maybe I could make something similar. I asked to use the vines, making Shin super curious immediately. I explained I wanted to weave a bag, something to put things inside and carry easily. He had zero clue what a bag was, but he enthusiastically volunteered to help me out. He grabbed a vine, squatted 3 meters away with an incredibly serious face, and waited for my instructions exactly, like a loyal soldier awaiting his orders. I really had to fight the urge to pat his head. The weaving was rough, though. I had not seen my grandmother in years, so my memory was fuzzy. I messed up a lot and had to restart. I got totally frustrated. But Shin never complained even once. Whatever I asked him to do, he did it. Whenever we made a mistake, he just quietly undid the vines and started completely fresh. His amazing patience actually calmed me down. By late afternoon, our bag was finally finished. Instantly, the system chimed loudly in my head. Hidden task complete. You successfully taught Shin of the Green Mountain tribe to weave vine carrying bags. Contributes to tribal development. Energy gained. Shin was absolutely thrilled. He kept turning the newly woven bag over in his hands, completely amazed that simple vines could turn into something like this. He explained they only ever used vines for tying, carrying smaller items in animal hides. This was way more practical. After that, we went exploring around the cave to hunt for more healing herbs. Shin tagged along, his eyes shining with pure excitement. After seeing how incredibly well the herbs healed his wounds, he realized just how valuable they were for beastmen getting injured during their wild hunts. We sadly found no more herbs, which was disappointing, but I did spot a cool fruit that looked exactly like a coconut. I had Shin slice the top right off with his sharp claws, scoop the inside, wash the shell, fill it up with stream water, cap it, and tie it tight with grass. A simple water bottle. Shin stared at it like I had just invented pure magic. He explained that beastmen normally carried water inside animal stomachs, and literally nobody enjoyed using the freshly made ones at all. Sub-beasts and kids especially preferred drinking from stone bowls rather than touching those gross containers. The system dinged again. Another awesome hidden task completed just for the water bottle idea. You and I both have to wonder what this system's rules are. The main quest was incomplete, but I kept unlocking all these random hidden tasks. It felt way too random, but I decided to save all my system questions for later, at least until I was safely settled in a tribe. That evening, while Shin was out hunting, I finally used my last identification shard directly on the huge shadow beast body. The results were nightmare fuel. It was a high-level predator with extreme intelligence and a wildly vicious, cunning nature. It literally took 2 or 3 grown beastmen fighting together just to match one. It loved eating defenseless sub-beasts and children. Worse, it could even command lower-ranked wild beasts to do its evil bidding. For weak tribes, it was pure doom. But Shin took it down alone. How? Shin is totally different, the system replied super vaguely. Different how? Insufficient access level. Please upgrade the system to unlock more info. Typical. I completely changed the subject and asked what sub-beasts actually were. The system explained that people here were either beastmen, who could transform and fight, or sub-beasts, who couldn't transform, but amazingly had the ability to bear children. Sub-beasts totally looked male on the outside. Bear children? Male-looking people who could literally get pregnant. Wait, is this what you and I are thinking? I asked, shaking. Yes, but I am a man, I protested. Let's dive into this wild world, because it turns out Sheen has been treating me like a sub-beast. And I cluelessly played along. The system literally dropped a bomb on me. Sub-beasts look exactly like guys. Oh, and it cheerfully added that a future upgrade could give me the ability to bear children. I hit reject on that so fast. Absolutely not. I marched right back into the cave, sat on a rock, and processed everything silently. After a long pause, I finally asked one tiny little question. Are there actually women here? The answer was a hard no. 0 female forms exist. So this entire world is filled with guys. Beastmen and sub-beasts only. That meant literally every single couple here looked like 2 men. I had absolutely no problem there. I fully supported my gay best friend back in high school, but realizing that my own personal preferences no longer mattered, and I was locked into exactly one option, that hit hard. It was way too much to handle. I pushed the panic down and decided to focus entirely on my main mission. Level up the system and get back home. Nothing else mattered now. When Sheen returned with food, he caught me zoning out in the dark cave. He waved his hand right in my face, and I finally snapped out of my daze. You can imagine how awkward this got. To him, I was basically the opposite gender. I shook off the weird feeling instantly. Are you okay? He asked, looking worried. Just thinking about tomorrow. I lied. We head out in the morning, right? Sheen nodded, getting the cooking fire started. He warned me the journey would take about 5 days. He planned to push through without sleeping. I could just chill in my woven bag, eat when I wanted, sleep whenever, and leave all the hard work to him. No sleep? Won't that ruin your body? I asked. He just said he had been away from home for far too long. His father and subfather were probably terrified. Plus, having me around made traveling slowly through the wild way too dangerous. He also needed to transport the shadow beast quickly. Just mentioning his parents brought this super warm, gentle smile to his face. But the moment he looked at the shadow beast, a flash of pure sadness hit him. Knowing these shadow beasts actually eat sub-beasts and little kids, I decided to just keep my mouth totally shut. Right after dinner, my eyes felt incredibly heavy. I had been getting completely exhausted lately, way more than usual. I collapsed onto the grass bed, watching Sheen easily finish off the huge portions I could not handle. He normally ate while hunting, bringing back perfectly cooked food for me, and ate my leftovers. He really thought I had a bird appetite. Honestly, I just thought beastmen were absolute gluttons. I faded out instantly. Sheen tucked me in with dry grass, fixed the fire, went outside to treat the monster with herbs, and guarded the cave in his panther form. The following morning, I actually forced myself up early. I made the system wake me. Absolutely. No more sleeping in until noon. Sitting by the entrance, struggling to keep my eyes open, I realized this extreme exhaustion was getting completely ridiculous. Let's pause for a second. Before this, the pure adrenaline of a dangerous world kept me awake. Now that I was finally letting my guard down, something was clearly wrong. Sheen returned with water and breakfast. We ate fast, and packed up to leave. His injuries were healing flawlessly, especially where I helped him out. Those treated spots were literally sealing shut already. Beastman healing is totally unfair. Damage like that would have easily destroyed me. Our water and fruits were already stuffed into the woven bag, padded with nice soft grass. Sheen easily hoisted the massive shadow beast onto his back. I helped secure the ropes, then climbed right into my comfy bag. Suddenly, I felt myself lifting into the air. Peeking through the woven gaps, I gave him the signal, and we launched forward. The bag bounced gently, way better than being dangled by my collar like a kitten. Almost instantly, that crazy, heavy sleepiness returned. I literally slapped my own face and demanded answers from the system. This was not normal. It calmly explained that my body was actually adapting. Everything in this insane world was insanely strong. So the system was forcing my body through a basic upgrade just to help me survive here. Not a full modification, just pure adaptation. Real changes would need major upgrades and my total permission. So how long does this take? I mumbled as I completely blacked out. 1 month. When my eyes fluttered open again, it was afternoon, and Sheen was resting. He sat cooking meat by a fire, surrounded by little leaf-wrapped packages. He proudly explained, they were perfectly portioned meals, just for me. He confessed he had never traveled with the sub-beast before. He totally forgot I needed 3 meals. Since beastmen just feast once and fast for 2 days straight, prepping my food all at once saved him precious time, meaning he would not need to stop and hunt every single hour. I told him to seriously stop worrying. I had my own snacks anyway. Trust me, you're going to want to remember this. My system scan just picked up rare healing herbs and mysterious blackthorn grass nearby. Alright, jump in with me. I told Sheen I spotted herbs and rushed over. He trailed right behind, super eager. This blackthorn grass looked basic. Just dark green leaves packing soft, little black thorns. I grabbed it safely using a leaf, then hit the identify system. The final results were absolutely wild. A total natural anesthetic. Breaking skin triggered instant heavy paralysis. Just a temporary stun. 0 lingering side effects. Crushed juice did the exact same trick. But the crazy catch? Those tiny thorns were way too soft to pierce tough beastman's skin, making it seem utterly useless. Practically nobody knew its hidden true potential. But coat that juice on something sharp like a blade, a spike, or heavy claw, and it instantly becomes an absolutely game-winning tool. Hunting, defense, healing, endless epic possibilities. I casually mentioned it was highly toxic. The guy literally jumped back, terrified, completely cracking me up. I quickly explained it just paralyzes. Totally harmless overall. He chilled out and instantly grasped its wild tactical potential. Sure, those tiny thorns failed against tough hide, but paired with sharp gear, it was an ultimate hunting hack. I mentioned smearing the juice straight onto weapons. His eyes sparked with excitement, promising to test it on captured monsters back at the tribe. We grabbed the healing herbs nearby, packed our gear, and pushed forward. Xian sprinted endlessly through the night. Now watch this closely. On day 3, he paused for hunting. I stayed awake, witnessing the entire thing. He locked onto a massive cow-sized beast. Never losing speed, he lunged, slammed it down, pinned it fast, set me aside, and ended it. The entire flawless takedown took under 10 seconds. 0 real struggle. I sat totally speechless. Catching chickens back home was harder. Then Xian transformed to human mode, prepping our meal. Razor-sharp claws extended from his fingers like crazy knives. Slicing the prime cut for me, he placed it on a leaf. Shifting back into panther form, he dragged the rest up a tree, eating it raw. Pure, intense savagery. My face drained completely pale as those specific words rushed my mind. Absolutely fierce. Right there, finally understood the beastman reality. Half human, half total predator. This primitive world was nothing like home. The beings here were way more powerful, and fundamentally different from anything I had ever witnessed. Still, I forced myself to watch every single second. I refused to look away and pretend this harsh reality vanished. This was my reality now. Xian finished fast. Hiding the leftovers, he sat meticulously cleaning his paws and face, looking just like a giant house cat. Suddenly, that terrifying predator aura vanished. Back in human form, he roasted meat for me. Sadly, I just could not eat. Spotting my pale expression, he asked if I was sick. I lied about being sleepy. Seeing those deeply worried eyes, my heavy tension finally melted. You see it too, right? Emotionally, beastmen match human hearts. Sean remained completely kind and thoughtful. This wild instinct was just basic survival for his kind. Mentally, I fully accepted the truth. My stomach just needed adjustment time. Taking 2 tiny bites, I claimed I was full. He packed the snacks away, and we kept pushing onward. 5 whole days blurred together with resting, snacking, and fun little exploring sessions during breaks. Over time, I truly made peace with these crazy world rules. While awake, I loved peeking outside the bag, watching that massive forest pass. I constantly used my explore skill, grabbing healing herbs, blackthorn grass, and even finding a crazy new plant called vitality growing grass. Consuming it hugely boosted energy recovery. Mixed with wound sealing herbs, it could literally pull someone back from the brink, assuming they were still breathing. Nearing the end, Sean slowed his pace. I peeked out, expecting a quick rest, but he carefully put me down, announcing we finally reached the tribe. Just a bit farther, Nade ducked back inside the bag, feeling him lift it and continue walking. Very soon, loud, energetic, and super young voices wildly echoed. Sean sped up, making the excited voices crystal clear. Sean, you returned. Gone a whole month, and bringing a massive beast. Epic hunting skills. Wait, what is inside your mouth? Is it tasty food? Let me try. I hid inside, listening to rowdy teenage boys buzzing everywhere. Suddenly, the hungry guy who literally thought I was a snack stepped uncomfortably close. Sheen stepped back, setting me down. Moo, not food. Everyone stay back. Stop scaring him. He gently nudged the bag, checking if I wanted out. After heavily debating staying hidden, I figured I should just face them. Trust me, you would freeze too. I peeked out, totally surrounded by massive wild animals. A majestic lion, twin leopards, and a giant black bear. And that hungry bear wanting a quick taste? Standing dangerously close. Stick with me here. 5 huge beasts circled me. A sub-beast. Where did you find him? One leopard cheered. Did you steal him? Amazing. The other leopard said cheerfully. Our tribe is getting a brand new sub-beast. The giant bear sat down happily, excitedly clapping his large paws together. The proud lion had already dashed toward the tribe, loudly announcing to everyone that Sheen was finally back with a massive catch and a newly rescued sub-beast. I was totally speechless. Sheen guided me toward the tribe, while the 3 remaining animals happily followed, constantly stretching their necks to peek at me. I shyly shrank into my bag. Sheen noticed and shot them a protective look, stopping them. At the main entrance, Sheen gently set me down, and I quickly climbed out. The 4 beasts suddenly shifted into human form. Tall, strong teenagers, all about 190 centimeters, looking maybe 17 or 18 years old. A cheerful patrol team of adults waited. Their leader, almost 2 meters tall, walked over and proudly patted Sheen on the shoulder. Great job, kid. You made it back safely with an amazing catch. You are truly our best. He glanced at me with a huge smile that was meant to be friendly, though it seemed a bit intense. I gave him a polite smile, and quickly hid behind Sheen. So many strangers. My social anxiety was acting up today. Everyone exchanged playful looks and grinned at Sheen. The young guys were happily nudging each other and making funny faces at him. I completely missed this because I was nervously staring at the ground. If I had seen it, I would have felt so embarrassed. Now watch closely. Things are shifting. Sheen completely ignored their jokes. He asked the teenagers to help carry the massive shadow beast to the central square so the hide stayed perfectly clean. The square was truly huge, about 5 football fields wide, featuring a grand stone platform right in the center. A curious crowd already gathered. At the front stood a powerful man, looking around 30, with light brown hair and a leopard print skirt. This guy was definitely the energetic tribe chief. Beside him stood a shorter man, with dark hair and gentle features, whose warm eyes watched Sheen with unmistakable love and deep care. The moment they placed the beast down, the dark-haired man rushed forward, grabbing Sheen by the arms and checking him carefully. You are home. That is what matters. Why were you gone so long? We were so worried. Then he spotted a small scratch on Sheen, and his happy smile turned into emotional concern. I am completely fine, sub-father. Do not worry, Sheen murmured. The strong tribe chief walked over next. His face was serious, but his eyes shined with relief and immense pride. Once he saw Sheen was safe, he smiled. Let us see your prize. Dan was cheering about it from halfway across the village. Sheen stepped aside, proudly revealing the mysterious shadow beast. The chief looked completely stunned. His eyes went wide with pure disbelief. Is that really the one? Yes, Sheen replied confidently. The chief looked incredibly serious. Now, he immediately sent someone to bring a brave beast man named Yan. You and I are just as confused right now. What is happening? People looked at each other in total surprise, whispering about why the joyful mood suddenly shifted. Soon, the fast messenger returned with Yan, a guy even taller than the chief, with striking golden hair. He walked with a heavy limp, showing a dramatic scar on his leg. His voice was deep and rough, his expression intensely mysterious. Sean, what do you need? He asked the mighty chief. Yang, when you see it, please stay calm. Control your emotions. The chief turned. Sean, show Uncle Yang your catch. Yang looked past Sean toward the fallen shadow beast behind him. The very instant he saw it, his emotions shattered. His eyes glowed bright red. Thick veins bulged across his forehead. He let out a dramatic cry and charged at the target, claws erupting from his hands. His face twisted into something incredibly fierce, half human and half beast. No one was ready for this. The chief lunged forward, bravely wrapping his arms around Yang to stop him. Let me go. I will defeat it. I will completely smash it to pieces. I will break it down. Let go of me, Yang. Look, it is already gone. Calm down. Yang thrashed wildly, motionally striking the chief with his claws. Several other strong men rushed in to help hold him safely. They pinned him down, but he fought back with everything, eyes streaming with tears, howling in deep sorrow. His body was held tightly, but his fingers kept fiercely digging the dirt, pulling himself forward inch by inch. His hardened beast claws dug incredibly deep holes into the ground. Several of his nails bent backward, leaving bright red marks. Lee, go to your father. Do not let him hurt himself anymore today. Sean called out loudly. He protectively shielded me behind him with one arm, supporting his father with the other. One of the teenage leopards, Lee, finally snapped out of his shock. That is where we leave it today, friends. He quickly ran to his father, transformed into a sweet cub, and gently pressed his head against Yan, whimpering softly. Father, please calm down. Let's dive right into this intense moment. Little Lee's cry cuts through Yang's absolute breakdown. He freezes up. The chief steps in. Yang, let the boy standing right here. This is Lee, your son with Shi Yi. Do you really want him seeing you break down? Would Shi Yi want this? That shadow beast is finished. Shi Yin defeated it. Shi Yi is finally avenged. Now, Shi Yi. Yang whispers the name, and it totally flips a switch. He stops fighting, eyes going blank. He lies there murmuring the name on repeat. Shi Yi, Shi Yi. Stunned, Lee lifts his head up, staring right at the fallen shadow beast. Is this the beast? He whispers. Absolute silence answers him. Yang slowly calms down, his face completely covered in dirt and tears. The chief signals the beast men to let him go. Hesitating slightly, they release him, watching closely just in case he snaps again. Total silence fills the square. Some stare at Yang, others watch Xian. Some just stare at the beast. The tribe elders wear completely distant, haunted expressions. The teens look totally confused, but feel the heavy tension, staying quiet. Finally, some commotion echoes from the tribe entrance. Watch this part closely. The returning hunting leader spots the monster from afar, drops his loot, and sprints right over. Is that a shadow beast? His voice shakes. Yeah, Xian defeated it. The hoarse reply comes from Yang, finally pulling himself up. He actually looks totally cold and composed again, except for his torn, injured hands and the heavy grime on his face. You wouldn't recognize him as the guy screaming on the ground earlier. Chief, what is going on here? Someone asks. Some older tribe members seem to already understand. Others look unsure. The younger ones are just completely lost. Chief Xian's dad, stays totally silent, then tells everyone to gather the whole tribe. He wants to explain this all at once. In 20 minutes, the square is packed. Sia climbs the stone platform, getting the fallen beast carried up beside him. Everyone goes totally quiet. 10 years ago, he begins. Wild beasts attacked our tribe. You remember? A heavy murmur instantly ripples through the packed crowd. Sia continues, his voice steady but heavy, revealing the harsh truth. That brutal attack wasn't random. The shadow beast planned it all. It used its unique ability to command lesser monsters, sending a massive wave of them crashing right into the vulnerable tribe, while most of the strong hunters were away on their autumn hunt. The few remaining beastmen fought back with absolute desperation. Even the kids and elders joined the fight, but they were totally overwhelmed. By the time the hunters rushed back, the tribe was completely overrun. Those who had stayed behind were mostly gone or severely injured. Think about how crazy this is. While everyone fought the swarm, the shadow beast sneaked in, raiding their food stores first, but it wanted more. It hunted down the hiding sub-beasts and children. It ruthlessly took them out, piling everyone up together. Sia's voice actually shakes saying this part. He closes his eyes for just a second before continuing. Finding the shadow beast, they fought it with absolutely everything. But it was just too strong and clever. It got away. They only managed to leave one single scar across its face. Sia lifts the fallen monster's head so everyone can clearly see that exact mark. The crowd completely erupts. People who lost family back then instantly break down crying. One sub-beast sobs loudly about losing their child. Others cry out about losing parents and partners. I watch Yang in the crowd, fists clenched so hard his torn nails flare up again. Little Lee stands beside him, trembling hand resting on his dad's arm. Now, it all makes sense. Lee's sub-father, Yang's partner, was one of the many victims taken by that shadow monster that day. Gradually, that heavy grief turns into something completely different. People start asking who finally defeated the monster. When someone points out Shin did it, voices explode in praise. This explains why his coming-of-age hunt took so incredibly long. He was tracking this specific creature on purpose. The hunting leader, Lan, walks right up to Shin, slapping his shoulder hard. You did so well, he says, quickly turning away to wipe his eyes. His own subfather was taken by that same beast. His dad fell fighting it too. By the time this massive crowd finally disperses, it is completely dark outside. I quietly follow Shin toward his family's home. Walking behind him, process everything I have just seen and heard. The entire tribe's pain, their deep bonds, how they grieve together. Right then, make a firm decision in my heart. We arrive at the chief's home. Inside, Sia and his partner Kai. You are already waiting for us by a warm fire. A massive stone pot bubbles over the flames, packed with meat and wild veggies. The smell hits, and my stomach totally growls. Welcome to Green Mountain Tribe, Ming Yue King, Sia says warmly. Caillou, Shin's subfather, immediately ladles soup into a stone bowl, handing it right to me first. He serves Shin next, gets a bowl from Sia, before the chief finally serves himself last. You and I can both feel that warmth, right? It really reminds me of home. Noticing my expression, Caillou speaks incredibly gently. Come along with me, he said. Shin admitted everything, finding me totally alone in the wild, and leaving me tucked away in that cave during his hunt. He apologized for Shin, explaining that leaving a delicate sub-beast completely unguarded was way too dangerous. Sia chimed in, saying they failed to teach him better. They looked truly sorry. Shin just stared down, total guilt covering his face. I almost leaped right out of my seat. I quickly insisted that Shin did absolutely nothing wrong. Meeting him was literally my luckiest break ever. He protected me fiercely. If anything, I was the one causing massive trouble, just acting as a heavy burden while he was out there bravely hunting. Shiyu looked completely shocked by my super intense reaction. Honestly, I hadn't grasped how risky the wilderness was for a solo sub-beast. Without a tough beastman guarding you, surviving was basically impossible. Leaving me in that cave, way more reckless than I thought. Shin just stared at me, totally stunned. He knew I did not blame him, but he never expected me to feel guilty about weighing him down. Shiyu smoothly changed topics, telling me to eat before the soup froze. I grabbed the bowl and took a quick sip. My eyes literally rolled back. After days of plain roasted meat, that warm veggie broth tasted so incredibly amazing. I almost cried. I ate insanely fast, forgetting everything. Slow down, we have plenty, Shiyu said with a super gentle laugh. I caught him glancing toward Shin, who watched me looking totally dazed. Shiyu's voice grew even softer. Then, you can treat this place like your own tribe, your home. We are your family now. I paused, eating, staying, looking down. My eyes burned. I blinked hard, pushing those emotional tears away, and finally gave a really small, grateful nod. Later, relaxing in my new cozy room, the system finally chimed. Task complete. Successfully joined the Green Mountain tribe. Watch closely now. All existing system functions unlocked. Features adjusted. Please review anytime. Main quest officially activated. Develop the Green Mountain tribe. This is one long-term quest. Inventing or discovering anything helpful for this tribe counts as solid development, and it will instantly generate precious energy. Energy is totally vital for the system and host. Please actively explore ways to improve our tribe. Note: the system loves positive growth and blocks toxic competition. Upgrade reward. One mysterious landscape image. What does it do? Keep upgrading to find out. I stared into the dark ceiling, thinking hard about the tribe, Sean, and Zhao Yi. I already made my final choice at the square. Watching everyone cry and hug over 10-year-old emotional scars. This was my actual tribe now, my home, at least until I could somehow return to my original one. I was still processing the system notifications when heavy footsteps suddenly stopped right outside my door. Sheen's voice drifted through the curtain. Asleep? Not yet. Come in. He walked inside, carrying fresh, warm animal hides. His subfather wanted me extra warm tonight. I thanked him, spreading them over my hard stone bed. When I finished, Sean remained there, just standing by a stone wall shelf, staring intensely at the random items. Tiny wooden toys and shiny stones. I stepped closer. They totally looked like kid treasures. Are these your childhood toys from back then? No, he whispered. This is not my room. It belonged to my brother. He was a tiny sub-beast. That totally confused me. Sean just hit adulthood, so his brother should be younger. Why was this room empty? I had not seen any young sub-beasts around the chief's place. Before asking, Sean spoke up, sounding incredibly serious. Let's pause for a second. Sean actually came to personally apologize for leaving me in that cave to hunt the shadow beast. I put you in danger. I'm sorry. I quickly stopped him, insisting I never blamed him. Hearing what that shadow beast did to his tribe, obviously, he could never let that monster just escape. Seeing his tribe's massive relief and grief today made it obvious he was their hero. Sean just stared at me endlessly after hearing that. Then, he slowly whispered, the truth is, taking it down wasn't just about the tribe. He stopped. I felt this heavy burden crushing his chest, something he desperately needed to share, but could not tell his parents. So, I carefully asked if he wanted to share. His eyes grew distant, and he began talking. What he revealed was way worse than Sia's story. 10 years ago, during autumn, the tribe sent 2/3 of their beastmen on a massive hunt led by Sia and Yan. Only 1/3 stayed to guard. It was the absolute safest season. Wild beasts had plenty easy prey, never attacking tribes in autumn. But they did. Day 3. Warning roars exploded from the patrol. Wild beasts were violently attacking, and there were so many. So what do you and I make of this? The instructor quickly sent 3 adult beastmen to rush the trainees and sub-beasts into a hidden mountain cave. Stick with me here. We start with Shi and sub-father Kaio dropping off food for everyone. Little brother Enon was feeling sick, staying home under the care of Lai's sub-father. Meanwhile, inside the safe shelter cave, everyone just anxiously waited around. Rescued kids and sub-beasts kept arriving, brought by warriors who immediately charged back out. But Enon and his caretaker, nowhere to be found. Kaio Yi was completely frantic, his nails digging deep into his palms without even realizing it. Monsters kept discovering the shelter way more than usual, coming in endless waves. The 3 guards held the line, but a few beasts sneaked past. Older trainees, basically 12-year-old kids, shifted into their beast forms, fighting alongside the adults. Then, an injured messenger rushed in. Things at the front line were getting serious. The hunting party leader commanded every beast man 12 and older to join the epic clash. A quick runner was sent to track down Sia and Yan. They just needed to survive until backup appeared. Only 2 guards remained at the shelter. Everyone else had to deploy. This was an absolute code red emergency. During normal raids, only fully grown warriors fought. If they struggled, the elders and teens jumped in. Now pay attention to this. Calling 12-year-olds meant the tribe was failing. If that wasn't enough, elders would stay behind so everyone else could make a run for it. These brave young beastmen, barely 2/3 the size of full adults, transformed and marched out fearlessly. Sean, who was only 8, tried sneaking into the squad. He desperately wanted to find Anne and Z. They had been waiting forever, and those 2 still hadn't reached safety. His poor subfather was completely falling apart from the stress. Lao was only 6, way too small. Sean believed he was the only one brave enough to go, totally ignoring the fact he was only 8. Even though he was huge for his age, the squad leader easily spotted him among the teens, grabbed him, and tossed him right back inside. "You are 8. Stay put. It is not your turn." They kept waiting. More hurt kids were carried in, some knocked out, others badly injured. Their terrified parents held them close, crying quietly, unsure if they would ever open their eyes again. Other injured youngsters bravely licked their wounds, curling up to comfort their weeping parents. Those who didn't come back, they were still fighting, or totally lost in the chaotic scramble. Suddenly, 5 massive wild beasts discovered the hidden shelter. This time, even the 10-year-olds shifted to fight. They lined up next to the guards, bearing tiny fangs at monsters 3 times their size. The little ones distracted the monsters while adults landed the finishing strikes. Sean secretly blended right in. His beast form matched their size, so nobody caught him. Once 3 monsters were down, he quietly slipped away from the pack and bolted out. By the time the clash ended and the kids returned inside, Zhao Yi finally realized Sean was completely gone. He absolutely lost it. Grabbing the guard, he begged through heavy tears. Little Sean did not come back. He definitely went looking for Anne and Z. "Please bring him back. He is only 8. But the guard firmly refused. He and his partner were the absolute last defense. If things went south, he had to lead everyone in the cave to safety. He just could not leave. Shiru understood. Being the chief's partner, running out to beg was already a selfish move. "I know what you're thinking. What happened next?" Well, 10 years later, Xian finally revealed exactly what he witnessed that day. He was only 8. When the warning roars echoed, his subfather, Shiwu, was over at the training grounds delivering a hot lunch. Xian's little brother was sick at home, being watched by Kai Yi, who was Li's subfather and Yang's partner. Everyone waited inside the cave. More sub-beasts and kids kept arriving, carried in by heroic warriors, who instantly rushed back out. But those 2 never showed up. Shiru was pacing with anxiety, digging his nails deep into his palms without even noticing. Xian tried sneaking out alongside the 12-year-olds when duty called, but the sharp-eyed squad leader caught him and threw him back. He was only 8, not his turn, so he waited. Battered children were carried and some unconscious, some badly hurt. Parents held them, sobbing softly. Other kids were just entirely lost to the chaos. When 5 massive wild beasts suddenly raided the shelter, even 10-year-old kids had to fight. Xian's beast form was big enough to perfectly blend right in. He bravely joined the fierce clash, and once 3 monsters were taken down, he slipped away into the village's absolute chaos. He was a small, black-furred cub, super easy to miss among the giant monsters and beastmen brawling everywhere. He sprinted home first. Zero sign of Kai Yi or little Nen. He bolted toward Yang and Kai Yi's house near the tribe's edge. the absolute closest spot to where the monster wave broke through. The house was completely wrecked. No trace of them, no signs of a struggle. He locked onto their scent and tracked it. He tracked them to the food warehouse. A massive gray-black shadow beast stood there, with all the food supplies dragged out and piled up. Trust me, you will never forget this mystery. On the other side, a pile of defeated villagers, stacked together. Let's dive in. Shiyu was curled tightly on the ground, shielding the baby with everything. The shadow beast was totally toying with him, batting its huge claws, leaving nasty wounds without finishing him. Whenever Shiyu tried getting up to run, it knocked him right down, biting his back and legs. He was covered in crimson, but this horrible beast was not done playing. Shone so red, he sprinted toward them, fiercely, roaring with absolutely everything he had. Then suddenly, the shadow beast looked up, ignoring Sean entirely for something else approaching from another angle. It instantly lost interest in the game. In one fluid motion, it bit down, ending Shiyu completely. A scream of pure, unadulterated rage tore through the air. Yang came flying from nowhere and fiercely attacked the beast. The foul beast dodged, swatting poor Shiyu fiercely through the air. He landed near a pile of fallen sub-beasts and children. Yet even then, Sean noticed, Shiyu had his arms locked incredibly tight around Inan. Yang fought like a man with nothing to lose. The shadow beast was merely toying with him too. It was clearly vastly stronger. Sean could not help. He could only howl into the sky, begging for any nearby beastmen to rush over. Shi suddenly arrived with 3 hunters. Even with 5 grown warriors, they barely had the advantage. The shadow beast was truly unlike anything they had faced. Now pay attention. It created an opening, took 2 hits on purpose, and escaped into the forest. Yang chased it. Xia could not stop him in time. Sean ran straight to Shiyu. He nuzzled his face, hoping he would wake up. He didn't. Then he felt something, a faint breath against his whiskers. Inan was still breathing in Chiyu's arms, barely. The tiny baby had a terrible head wound and vicious bite marks across his back. Shin pulled him out as incredibly gently as possible. Shay's grip was insanely tight. He licked Anan's bad wounds over and over, desperately praying. Meanwhile, wild beasts were slowly cleared from the entire tribe. The all-clear horn sounded, but Anan's breathing grew weaker. Shin crouched right over his little brother and loudly wailed. When Shay finally arrived with Kaio Yi and Lai, Anan was almost completely gone. Shin had him safely circled inside his front paws. His head rested against the tiny, whimpering body. Little Anan quietly passed away right in Kaio Yi's arms. Shay stood totally expressionless, but red dripped where nails fiercely pierced his palms. Shin's little brother, who always followed him around happily calling out Big Brother, from the very second he could speak, who truly loved wrapping his tiny arms around Shin's neck, who rode his back, running through the whole tribe together, was gone. Kaio Yi fainted instantly. Lai collapsed onto Kaio Yi's chest, howling until he passed out too. Late that night, 2 beastmen brought Young back totally unconscious. They had chased after him, but were delayed by vicious wild beasts. When they finally located him, one leg was shattered and the shadow beast had him pinned completely. They arrived just as the terrifying beast was about to finish him. It fled upon seeing reinforcements coming in. You saw that? Even with the shattered leg, Young kept crawling after it. Everyone thought he would perish. His injuries were truly devastating, but Shay and Kaio Yi refused to ever give up. Kaio Yi ground meat into paste, gently spooning broth into Young's mouth. Shay licked his wounds clean every single night. They fed him their absolute best food. Still, Young nearly stopped breathing several heartbreaking times. The wise elders said someone hurt that badly usually lasted 3 days, tops. Yet Young stubbornly held on for 5, then 7. On the 7th day, he finally woke up. The elders called it sheer willpower. He had something he utterly refused to let go of. Shay expected Young to explode with rage. He kept guards posted nearby, but Young was just eerily quiet. That bold, fearless warrior was entirely gone. He seemed completely hollow, obedient, and empty, like all life had drained out. But it was an act. The absolute moment Xia dropped his guard, Yang slipped right past the patrols, sprinting into the deep forest to find a shadow beast. Xia dragged him back personally, tightly tying him up before bringing Lai to stand right in front of him. You want payback? Fine. But look at this child first. Your child. Yours and she. Yes. If you fall, what happens to Lai? The tribe will raise orphans, but you know the harsh difference between a child with parents and one completely without. Xi's health was always incredibly fragile, and now, we lost an infant too. He is doing much worse. How could he possibly raise two young beastmen? I have said my piece. If you still want to vanish, I will not stop you. Yang went still. Xia untied him. Yang walked straight to Lai, pulling the boy tightly into his arms, staring into nothingness for ages. Then, he just broke down completely sobbing. After that day, the old Yang never returned. That incredibly confident, blazing warrior simply disappeared. What remained was a man always standing in shadows, cold, dark, totally unreachable. The light inside him went out the day Yes was taken, and absolutely nothing in 10 years had ever rekindled it. Shin's voice was perfectly calm as he told me all of this. The exact calm from carrying something terribly sharp inside you for so long that your flesh slowly wears its edges completely smooth. When he finally finished, I just sat there in silence for a while. Before I could even speak, I looked at him, half his face hidden deep in shadow, and reached out to touch his shoulder. It is over now, I said softly. And that is where we leave it. The room went silent. Finally, Shin smiled like always, bright and incredibly warm, without a single trace of darkness. He genuinely apologized for dumping all that intense backstory so late at night. His voice remained totally clear and full of youthful energy, just like before. He mentioned it was late, told our MC to rest, and left. Before our hero could even reply, Sean vanished through the tent flap. Lying on those clean furs, he just stared blankly upward. Stick with me here. Those heavy words kept echoing, perfectly explaining exactly why this tribe seriously lacks sub-beasts and young kids. One quick look proved it. Mostly just strong beastmen and young fighters. Chief Saya merely shared the official story from that stage, delivering cold facts to formally close an old tribal wound. But what Sean just confessed to our MC was completely and entirely different. He shared a normal person's view of that nightmare, pure helplessness, wild desperation, and total, irreversible emotional loss. That vicious attack 10 years back did not just reduce their population, it left deep, permanent emotional scars on every single survivor. A full decade passed without healing anything. Time only buried that trauma deeper. Our MC barely slept after hearing Shin's story, but when Shaoi asked the next morning, he cheerfully lied about sleeping perfectly. His mind was finally set. He truly wanted to help this tribe, not just because some system demanded it, but because he actually cared. Now watch closely. Sean was his very first friend here, making the tribe's struggles feel incredibly personal. So, during a nice lunch with Shaoi, our MC finally requested his own house. Shaoi looked super surprised, offering to let him stay forever. Shaoi even mentioned the family was seriously considering adopting him. That was super sweet, but our guy desperately needed privacy to keep his system totally secret, plus enough space to freely experiment with awesome new ideas to help the entire tribe. Plus, there was a completely hilarious misunderstanding. Sean mistakenly told his family our hero was underage. They never discussed it, and our guy was actually 22. Something about his cheerful vibe totally gave the wrong impression. Once our MC cleared the air, Shaoi quickly and politely apologized. Shaoi accepted the choice, looking slightly bummed out. But then Shaoi instantly cheered up, happily suggesting building the new house right next to Shin's. Sean was moving out since he officially came of age. Our MC happily agreed, promising he would definitely visit them super often. By evening, Chui casually started using our hero's first name. He pitched in with dinner prep, which was honestly a total breeze. Everything they ate was just roasted or boiled. When housing came up during dinner, Sayak quickly rearranged Sheen's schedule. Now, Sheen could split his time between daily patrols and building both cool new houses. Sheen asked about design preferences. Our MC simply requested a tiny patch of plantable land nearby. He had huge ideas for cool stuff to grow and awesome new things to try. Once everyone finally settled down to sleep, our hero sat on his stone bed and activated the system. You saw this coming. Time to properly explore all those awesome features fully unlocked by joining the tribe. That quiet night, he eagerly sat down to test every single new system tool granted by his official tribe membership. First up, a cool new energy storage space. Mostly empty, just some mysterious fog steadily drifting around. The system explained that points earned by assisting the tribe would partly pool right here, ready for his personal use. He still owed energy from that crazy cave incident. Luckily, completing 2 secret hidden tasks totally wiped out his debt, leaving a nice little bonus left over. Explore and Identify got tiny updates, but basically stayed identical. Explore simply scanned a neat 50-meter radius once daily. Identify offered 3 uses every 5 days. Handy, but restrictive. Honestly, the warehouse feature excited him the most. It acted like an epic personal pocket dimension. A 3x3 meter space for hoarding lifeless items, with time completely frozen inside. He tested it out on a fur blanket, magically teleporting it anywhere within a 1-meter radius. Hands down, this was the absolute best and most practical tool yet. The system shop featured 3 categories: finished products, blueprints, and raw materials. Everything required energy. Finished items were super pricey, but ready instantly. Blueprints and basic materials were cheaper and reusable. One quick glance at his sadly empty energy bar and he slammed the shop shut. Anything affordable, he could just easily build himself. The massive encyclopedia split into 2 parts. First up was an absolutely insane search function linking straight to his original world's internet. He couldn't message anyone back home, merely browse useful data, and it drained precious energy continuously while active. Still, knowing this wild system could actually reach his home world felt incredibly uplifting. It proved returning home was truly possible. Part 2 held a massive database covering every single creature and raw material inside. This magical world, insanely useful, but so massive it would literally take years to finish reading. He smartly decided to use it like a reference book alongside Identify. Research stuff first, saving precious. Identify charges for unexpected emergencies. The final feature, Character Scan, let him check one person's exact physical condition daily. So what do you and I make of this? He scanned his own body, finding he was perfectly healthy by Earth standards, but embarrassingly weak here, plus lingering adaptation. Sleepiness. The absolute potential hit immediately. I could easily scan hurt tribe members, figure out exactly what was wrong, and cure them using the absolute perfect herbs. Stick with me. My growing knowledge of these plants is about to completely upgrade this entire tribe. The system panel showed my huge main quest. Develop the Green Mountain tribe, long term. There was an epic landscape image listed as a reward, random locked quests, and secret tasks that only magically popped up after I cleared the previous ones. One helpful note explained that finished tasks with ongoing positive effects would keep earning energy totally passively. 0 rating so far. The system just suggested, nothing started. Please take action. Fair enough. I already had amazing ideas brewing. Reviewing everything, I lay in bed pondering my absolute biggest problem right now. I was way too weak for this insane world. The system features were awesome, but most required stepping outside the tribe to work, and I could absolutely never survive out there completely alone. I either needed to get stronger or find a trustworthy partner immediately. Sadly, the system had absolutely nothing to boost my physical strength. Yet, those epic features needed upgrades, so I pushed it. Was there any workaround? After a short pause, the system suggested disguising its wild abilities as a natural talent. Apparently, a tiny handful of sub-beasts were born with super unusual gifts. Most were so perfectly hidden that even the person never noticed. I could just pretend to be one of those rare sub-beasts, using that clever cover to get real help from someone trustworthy. But I did not jump at this idea. I pointed out the danger. If nobody knew sub-beasts had talents, I would be treated as a freak, maybe even banished forever. Now watch carefully here. That is why you need someone safe, the system replied. The room went silent. Everything clicked in my head, and a real chill ran straight down my spine. You are steering me toward Sheen, I said. The system stayed silent, so I kept going, laying out absolutely everything I figured out. The system had not appeared when I first woke up in the tree. It completely waited until Sheen brought me somewhere safe, making sure I already trusted him before entering the picture. And that exact night in the cave, when the system used energy to hide me from a dangerous beast, that proved it could mask my presence, which meant it probably did the exact same thing when I was passed out in the tree, keeping monsters away while letting Sheen find me. The system engineered our whole meeting. It definitely wanted me close to Sheen. It had massive plans involving him, plans it needed me to carry out. I asked why it didn't just bind to Sheen directly, but I already knew the answer. Insufficient access level. I let that go. But here is what we really need to know. Is it true that I actually perished in my original world? Yes. The answer came instantly, and the system completely ignored, denying anything else I said. I nodded. If it saved my life, then helping it upgrade was a completely fair payment, plus earning my ticket back home. But I had one more major question. Are your overall intentions toward this world good or harmful? I loved being useful. I absolutely refuse to be a tool for destruction. The system firmly guarantees it will never do anything harmful to this world or tribe. For the very first time, I heard something beyond cold machinery in that voice. It sounded serious, genuine, even. I accepted that and collapsed onto the bed. The tense confrontation had completely drained me. My head throbbed. The adaptation sleepiness suddenly crashed over me, and within seconds I was gone. The next morning, I spread out all the herbs I collected: healing grass, vitality, growing grass, and blackthorn grass, right on the ground outside to properly clean them up. When Caillou came home and saw what I was doing, he absolutely panicked. The second I said the word medicine, he jumped back like I was handling sacred treasure, terrified of damaging anything. Right on cue, the system handed me a task. Teach Caillou to recognize 3 different types of herbs. I coaxed him over, putting him to work cleaning the roots. I walked him through each and every one. The healing grass that seals injuries and prevents terrible infection, and the vitality grass that speeds up energy production and can save someone who has lost way too much strength. He listened with super intense focus, clearly understanding how much these could mean for a tribe full of beastmen who regularly fought wild monsters. Then he asked me something I had truly been hoping for. Would I actually teach the rest of the tribe, especially the hunting party? They were absolutely the ones most at risk, and they could easily gather herbs while out in the wild. I said yes, without any hesitation. Medicine was meant to be used, never hoarded. It would be incredibly tragic for someone to fade away with the cure growing right beside them, simply because nobody recognized it. The system instantly issued another task: spread knowledge of the 3 herbs to the entire tribe. I quickly asked Caillou to arrange a time with the chief to gather the hunters for a lesson. She eagerly agreed and promised to talk to Zhao about it. I also showed him the blackthorn grass, explaining its crazy numbing effect. So what do we take from this? The second he heard poison, he panicked. But I calmed him down, promising I would never experiment alone. Stick with me here. I agreed to help Sheen, which finally satisfied him. Zhao Yi and I just finished sorting herbs when Sheen sprinted over, panicking. A beastman named Luo got critically injured on patrol, fading fast and losing vitality. Zero time to overthink this. Zhao Yi jumped right onto Sheen's back, pulling me up right behind him. Grabbing the bag of fresh herbs, we raced toward the square. Luo looked absolutely terrible. His worst injury? A massive gash on his leg. His energy was draining fast, leaving him barely conscious. System scan confirmed it. Adult beastman, critical condition, massive vitality drain. I tossed healing grass into my mouth, handed some to Zhao Yi, and yelled at him to chew it and pack the worst wound. Everything I taught him earlier was instantly put to use. We prepped batch after batch until his entire injured leg was completely covered. The draining stopped, but Luo had already lost too much energy. He passed out completely, his face gray, his entire body dangerously cold. I screamed for the vitality grass. Zhao Yi grabbed it, and we tried feeding Luo, but the guy's jaw was clamped tightly shut. Xin pried his mouth open while Zhao Yi and I rolled crushed herbs into tiny balls, pushing them down with water that the frantic villagers rushed over from their own homes. Luo swallowed on pure reflex. Slowly, warmth crept back into his face, going from extremely pale to something actually approaching normal. The system confirmed he was safe. I announced it, and Luo's partner, tightly holding their 10-year-old son and silently praying, finally broke down crying. The young boy started crying too. Everyone relaxed, and I noticed them staring at me and Zhao Yi. They knew Zhao Yi never possessed this knowledge before. Watch how this changes everything. The new sub-beast Sean brought back could save lives and teach others. The system marked a completed hidden task, granting me extra energy, but after saving Luo, my herb supply was basically wiped out. That seriously worried me. If another emergency hit, I had nothing left. Sean offered to gather more herbs, but I reminded him about Zhao Yi arranging plant recognition training for the entire tribe soon. Sean was completely shocked. I wanted to teach everyone. I explained my reasoning clearly. Keeping medical secrets while innocent lives were constantly at risk made zero sense. Hunters faced daily danger. If they learned wild herbs, they could easily treat injuries right there. Plus, I really couldn't go out and gather things by myself. Anyway, I also begged Sean for small live animals to test the mysterious blackthorn grass on. I needed to test the numbing effect against body size first. Later, Sean showed me our future house location. His buddies Mu and Lai helped, having already dragged heavy stone and wood over. By sunset, the solid foundation was finished. These beastmen worked insanely fast. That evening, Xia called everyone to the square. You know exactly how this feels, right? I had to face 900 people just to explain 3 simple herbs. For a guy with social anxiety, an absolute nightmare. Xia introduced me, explaining how those herbs literally saved Luo today. The massive crowd buzzed with excitement before he handed me the stage with a warning. Anyone interrupting gets kicked out. I stepped up on totally shaking legs, explaining every herb. Healing grass stops energy drain. Vitality grass replaces lost essence. And blackthorn grass works perfectly as a non-lethal paralytic. I also told the crowd to bring back any unusual wild plants they ever found, because even useless-looking stuff could hide an epic secret purpose. Finishing up, I shoved the herbs toward Sire and hid right behind Sean. My whole back was drenched in sweat. Public speaking in front of 1,000 wild beastmen felt way scarier than anything the brutal wilderness had shown me. After that presentation, the entire tribe got incredibly enthusiastic. The crowd practically swarmed me until Sire distracted them, creating a 3-day herb display where busy hunters got the very first look. Next morning, I was itching to experiment with blackthorn grass, but Xiu absolutely refused to let me try until Sean safely returned. So, I casually killed time by reading the system's encyclopedia. When Sean finally arrived, I got so hyped I hugged him, startling the poor guy into dropping all the captured animals he brought. They instantly scattered everywhere. I tried chasing them before realizing how ridiculous that was. Sean grabbed them all in seconds. After lunch, I grabbed my tools and blackthorn grass, happily following Sean to our site. On the way, we discussed cool weapons. Apparently, beastmen never used any at all. Claws and fangs are enough for them. But what about sub-beasts? Trust me, you'll want to see how we fix that. Stick with me here. Coating a weapon with blackthorn grass juice might just be our ultimate survival trick. Sean instantly got the vision, but he did point out that plain stone knives might struggle piercing thick animal hide. I started crushing that grass down into juice while the guys focused hard on building the houses. Time to test this on the captured beasts. But Sean insisted on handling the truly dangerous part himself. He rubbed the juice into their existing wounds while my system scanned the data. The results? Totally mind-blowing. Within just one single minute, every beast completely froze. The smallest beast collapsed instantly. Even a massive cow-sized monster passed out under 60 seconds. This paralytic poison worked fast and scaled perfectly with their size. This stuff had absolutely insane potential. That blackthorn grass juice was terrifyingly potent. One tiny dab from a little stick knocked out every single test subject insanely fast. Even the giant one. Everyone was stunned. Now watch closely, because Moo, the bear, beast, man, does something incredibly reckless here. He grabbed the bowl, sniffed that leftover juice, and straight up licked it. Before anyone moved, he collapsed instantly. I completely panicked, but quickly assured them he was fine. An hour later, groggy Moo woke up and explained the crazy feeling. Instant numbness, a total loss of body control, then blackout. It was basically an overpowered natural anesthetic. That chaos wasted half our building time, but hey, we confirmed it works on beast men too. Once Moo recovered, Lee totally promised him a beatdown. Honestly, fair enough. That evening, Sean surprised me with a massive half-meter curved bone spike from a fierce thorn beast. He kept thinking about our weapon talk earlier and found something way better than basic stone knives. The spike was perfectly blade-shaped, super lightweight, incredibly hard, and could slice through stone. A genuinely perfect, natural dagger. I tightly wrapped the grip with hide and coated the edge with blackthorn grass juice. A paralyzing weapon on contact. Exactly what a squishy guy like me desperately needed. I casually wished I could test it properly. So, Shin asked if I wanted to head outside the tribe and try. You and I are totally thinking the exact same thing right now. A secret night mission? Absolutely epic. I was totally ecstatic, but we had to wait until Shu Yu slept. Because he would absolutely hate a night outing. We sneaked around like little kids on a mission, listening through the walls until everything was completely clear. Shin laid down for me to climb up, and I quickly discovered a super humiliating truth. I literally could not get up, even lying down. His beast form was 2 meters tall and super sleek. Meanwhile, Shu Yu made it look totally effortless yesterday. Shin looked surprised, then disbelieving, and finally resigned. Mercifully, he extended his tail like a step, treating me just like a little kid. Super embarrassing, but it worked. Riding was incredible. His fur was incredibly warm. I honestly spent the whole trip burying my face into it. I wanted to pet this giant cat since day one. No regrets at all. But this midnight ride also gave me time to think about something important. My system demanded I find a trustworthy beast man to disguise its insane abilities as my natural talent. Feeling Shin beneath me, I knew he was the absolute best candidate. No time to search elsewhere, and no desire to. My mind was made up. When Shin finally paused to find a target, I spoke up extremely carefully. I told him I wanted to scavenge for useful items, hinting that I had a special method for detecting things. He paused, staring sharply. "Did you notice something?" he asked. When I stayed totally quiet, he didn't push. He just slowed his pace. Eventually, I asked him to run straight while I activated my system's 20-minute explore function to scan. This was my very first step toward revealing my biggest secret to him. Sean sprinted through the patrol zone while my explore function ran at max. With just 20 minutes, every second mattered. Suddenly, the system flagged a massive bamboo forest right nearby. I yelled for Sean to stop. We dove in, finding bamboo just like back home, only way bigger. And bamboo means bamboo shoots. A food nobody here ever discovered because the rough shells literally cut their hands before pulling them free. But Sean yanked one free effortlessly. I confirmed it was perfectly edible, mentally marking the spot for our gatherers. We scored herbs and trees. Trust me, you and I will love what happens next. Stick with me. You and I are diving into a wild beastman story. After time expired, we gathered herbs, I told Sean to grab bamboo and fine animal hair for a secret toothbrush project, keeping those details totally hidden. Then came the big talk I was planning. I finally asked Sean if my weird skill of finding hidden things bothered him at all. Honestly, he was not shocked one bit. He actually figured it out days ago during our trip back. He noticed me walking right toward the blackthorn grass, even though I was fast asleep earlier inside my bag. I never even glanced that way and could not see past the huge trees blocking everything. He quietly kept that observation to himself. His sharp instincts totally floored me. One tiny clue revealed my hidden skill. Then he surprised me even more. Turns out, he also hid a massive secret of his very own. Since he was 4, an unusual power grew inside him, making him way stronger than any beastman his exact age. After coming of age, it surged wildly. Now, nobody in the entire tribe could possibly match him. But he sensed this crazy power, felt totally incomplete. Missing something unknown bothered him, wondering if it was actually completely safe or dangerous. I quickly asked the system if this was exactly what it meant when calling Sean so uniquely different. It confirmed yes, saying it was totally harmless, then went completely silent despite my endless questions. Good enough. I patted his strong arm, telling him there was nothing to fear. Nothing negative boosts your strength for zero reason. We both held huge secrets now, and somehow that naturally made things feel way more equal between us. Now watch closely. The mood lightened, and we set off to find a suitable beast to fully test my awesome poison blade. Sean smartly picked a small spotted beast as our target, mid-sized, relatively safe, and ideal for a first fight. He brilliantly set an ambush. I hid in tall grass while he circled around, driving the wild beast directly toward me. As it crashed through at full speed, I leaped out and slashed its side. Mud splashed my surprised face. The beast grew absolutely furious. A tiny sub-beast actually dared attack it. It charged, and I barely rolled clear. It reared up on strong hind legs to stomp me completely flat. I desperately dodged again, swinging, but missing my second strike. My racing heart pounded wildly. The toxin had not kicked in yet, and my tricks were running desperately low. Then it hit. The furious beast wobbled mid-attack. Its legs completely buckled, crashing down to the ground with a massive thud. That blackthorn grass juice really did its job. I felt absolutely ecstatic. I loudly called for Sean, who strolled over looking totally calm. Later, I realized his claws were out the whole time, fully ready to finish the beast. If that toxin took even one moment longer, we securely tied the beast up with strong vines to bring alive. I strongly avoided finishing it while toxins remained inside, since eating drugged meat would easily knock out anyone who tried consuming it later. Riding home, deep drowsiness crept back in again. I mumbled to Sean about giving that bone blade to Zhao Yu for solid protection during her risky gathering trips. Sean simply told me to keep it. His dad had way better materials for Zhao Yu. Once we reported this amazing discovery, then he quietly added that he would find me something even better someday. You feel that connection, right? Leaning against his warm back, eyes barely open, I mumbled. This blade was already perfect. I truly meant it. Getting home super late, we found Xiao waiting anxiously outside. I totally panicked about sneaking out, but Xin stayed perfectly calm. Turns out Xiao actually knew we left from the very start. He just kept it hidden from Shui. That was a massive relief. I reported everything to Xiao before deep sleepiness took over, finding bamboo shoots as a brilliant new food source. Plus, the awesome poison blade's insane effectiveness against powerful wild beasts. I proudly showed off the captured spotted beast. Just one single wound proved a sub-beast with the coated blade could easily take down creatures normally deemed completely impossible for us to ever defeat. Xiao's eyes went incredibly wide. I practically saw him calculating what this breakthrough meant. If every single sub-beast carried a weapon exactly like this, the horrible tragedy 10 years ago might have ended differently. I desperately tried laying out more epic plans for arming everyone and protecting the perimeter, but literally collapsed mid-sentence. Xin bravely caught me, carrying me straight to bed. The following days just flew by. Shin took me patrolling every single night to perfectly scan for vital resources. I easily used the system's amazing search function to learn building wooden doors, then immediately put Shin to work helping me construct awesome bamboo versions. I proudly made myself a toothbrush using beast hair and bamboo. Every single small invention earned precious system energy. I also bought cheap, high-yield potato and sweet potato seeds directly from the shop. Absolutely perfect for ensuring the whole tribe's food security. Moving day finally arrived. Shui literally clung to my hand, desperately begging me to stay. Xiao brilliantly rescued me by distracting him, while Shin grabbed my arm, whispering we must run before endless tears started. We totally fled. My new house was exactly what I wanted. Incredibly spacious, featuring a proper kitchen, cool bamboo doors, and a huge 3-acre fenced plot outside for planting. Shin's place was just a few short minutes away. Now, wrap your head around this. I was settling in when someone knocked. Rong Lin, partner of Luo, the beastman I previously saved. Stick with me. He brought crazy gifts, salt stones, veggies, shiny stone cookware, fresh hides including a rare white one, plus a massive beast. His 10-year-old son literally dragged the catch right to my very own feet. I tried refusing, but Rong Lin got emotional, explaining what losing Luo would have meant. A young kid growing up fatherless, constantly struggling just to get enough food every single day. Obviously, could not turn him down. He said Luo fully recovered and would rejoin the hunting party within days. Honestly, that was easily the best news I had heard all week. With Rong Lin's super generous supplies filling up the empty rooms, my new home finally felt cozy. I decided to have Sean prep the massive beast, throwing a thank you dinner for everyone helping me. Mu Lai, Shi Yi, and Xia. It was definitely time to start settling into this awesome life. With my epic new house finally ready, I got straight to work on the absolute most important thing: farming. I spent my saved system energy buying 100 pounds each of sweet potatoes and regular potatoes. They materialized all at once and nearly buried me. I shoved everything into storage space, heading outside toward my fenced 3-acre farming plot. First, I planted those rare medicinal herbs I saved, putting healing grass right here, and blackthorn grass in a far corner, just to keep them separated. I was still missing vitality. Growing grass, easily the rarest of the three. Sean promised to bring some back with intact roots, letting me slowly grow my own private supply. Then I cut the potatoes and sweet potatoes into tiny pieces, each holding a sprout, carefully burying them in rows. Spring season was already passing by. I absolutely needed to plant these while I still could. Explaining where I got them would be tricky, but I would figure it out later. Sean probably would not be fooled, but he never pressed me about weird things anyway. Rong Lin gifting that massive beast sparked another brilliant idea: an epic thank you dinner. I asked Shi En to help prep the meat, then used those newly acquired salt stones to actually season the incredible food properly for the very first time. Just rubbing salt into the cuts completely transformed the flavor profile. Shi En tried a piece, looking genuinely blown away by how incredibly different the food tasted. I planned an epic feast for tomorrow evening. Shi En, Mu Lai for building my place, plus extra portions for Xia and Zhao Yi for taking care of me. Now watch closely. Shi En seemed oddly jealous, inviting Mu and Lai. I could not understand why. When I explained I wanted to personally thank everyone instead of letting him cover debts, and that sharing food with family was perfectly normal, he finally brightened up a bit. I also totally warned Shi En that I would be making lots of strange things going forward. He just nodded and told me to ask him for whatever I needed. Absolutely no questions asked. He knew I held major secrets, and he remained totally content, waiting until I felt fully ready. That quiet, unwavering trust meant more than he probably realized. My first day joining the gathering squad finally arrived. Zhao Yi picked me up early, heading straight toward our meeting point where 30 sub-beasts and 4 strong-guard beastmen were waiting. Mu and Lai actually tagged along too. Shi En told them about my epic dinner plans, so they figured they would help gather stuff and come straight to my house right after. When I mentioned the salted meat to Zhaoyi, offering to share, a young sub-beast named Ruya suddenly overheard and eagerly asked if he could learn it too. His father quickly pulled him back and apologized, saying Ruya was not trying to steal knowledge. I know what you are thinking. I was super confused until realizing the tribe actually believed I was some legendary shaman or a rare apprentice. They thought herbal knowledge was incredibly sacred and exclusive. Terrified that being too curious would deeply offend me and just drive me completely away. I had zero clue about this. I quickly explained it was merely a simple cooking technique, not a secret, and I would happily teach anyone who really wanted to learn. The tension dissolved, but that incident proved exactly how the tribe viewed me, as someone precious, completely irreplaceable, someone they were absolutely terrified of losing forever. Once we reached the gathering area, Chewie pulled me aside, excitedly unwrapping an item hidden inside. Animal hide. A short sword carved from the toughest iron bone beast, heavily coated in blackthorn grass juice. Sia crafted it for him. For a split second, my heart raced, thinking they had discovered iron. But it was just bone, not metal. Still, it was a stunning weapon. Chewie revealed Sia's massive plan. Once enough blackthorn grass was gathered, every single sub-beast in the tribe would get an awesome weapon, and our entire tribe's perimeter would be totally ringed with sharpened stakes coated in paralytic juice. Never again would they be defenseless. A shadow of old sadness flickered across Chewie's face. I put my hand on his shoulder. We will keep getting better, I promised him. My first gathering trip started perfectly. Trust me, you're going to want to see this. I found something totally incredible. Green onions, fresh ginger, and garlic, the absolute holy trinity of seasoning. I carefully dug them up with roots perfectly intact, and stored them, already imagining my next epic meal. Stick with me. The system didn't speak. It completely screamed. 3 crazy fast alerts begging for emergency energy, so loud they gave me a massive headache. The system never, ever showed feelings before. The only time it sounded even remotely like this was when we argued before. This was total panic. I clicked approve instantly. If the system was freaking out this badly, I had to move now and ask questions later. The scan results hit me like freezing water. 44 wild rogue beastmen were charging toward us from the south. The system tagged them as incredibly dangerous to sub-beasts. They would arrive in just 10 minutes. It kept begging me to run back to the tribe. But we had 37 cheerful sub-beasts out here gathering supplies. I couldn't just run away alone. I sprinted over to Chio and grabbed his arm. He saw my panicked face and instantly turned serious. I told him the complete truth. Hostile beastmen were incoming. We had to evacuate right now. I couldn't explain how I knew, and there was zero time for excuses. Do you trust me? I asked him, my voice shaking. Something flashed in Chio's eyes. Maybe a memory. His face lost its color. He didn't ask a single question. He spun around and shouted orders with this epic boss energy I never seen before. Everyone drop your items. Line up in 10 seconds. Head to the tribe immediately. He even threatened to cut 3 days of snacks for anyone moving too slow. He quickly sent off one of our guards, Faye, who transforms into a massive eagle, flying up to find the patrol squad and bring backup. As Faye soared into the sky, he spotted them. A massive squad of unknown beastmen racing straight at us. Everything unraveled super fast. Faye saw the attackers and shrieked a massive warning. Watch closely, things get wild. The 5 guards transformed instantly, loaded 7 to 9 sub-beasts onto their backs, and bolted away. But carrying that many friends slowed them down. The system kept updating the gap in my head. The distance vanished. They caught right up to us. Our guards stopped, turned to face them bravely, and lowered themselves so we could slide off. They built a solid wall between us and those 44 rogues who surrounded us, howling with wild excitement like totally mindless creatures. Their boss demanded, our heroes just hand over the sub-beasts. He claimed they wouldn't harm anyone, just borrow them for a few days. Absolutely gross, right? Our brave beastmen didn't waste a single breath negotiating. Get out, That was their only answer, repeated 5 times. The rogues were smaller than our adult guards, closer to Mu and Lai's size. But they had insane numbers. Since our guys refused to move, the leader ordered a strike, targeting Mu and Lai. He wanted to eliminate the youngest fighters first, hoping to completely shatter our morale. Mu and Lai didn't even blink. They bared their fangs and pushed back. Our guys formed a tight circle, backs together, keeping us safe inside. It was a brilliant formation. The rogues couldn't easily use their huge numbers against our much larger and stronger fighters. But 10 or more enemies constantly swarmed Mu and Lai, treating the brave teens as weak targets. Both energetic teenagers quickly took heavy damage. Lai's beautifully spotted fur was getting completely messed up. Mu's dark coat took hits too. The adults couldn't break formation without leaving the sub-beasts wide open on another side. Shi Yu and I stood directly behind Mu and Lai's piece of the defensive wall. I watched intense strikes send debris onto the faces of the sub-beasts around me. Some were silently crying, holding their hands tightly over their mouths. We both hoped they'd hold out, right? Nope. Rogues teamed up, grabbing Mu's paw while another slammed him. Mu was yanked sideways, opening a tiny gap in our wall for 1 single second. I heard Shi Yu scream, "Watch out." His hands shoved me super hard to the right. I tumbled down. When I looked back up, an adult beastman had helped Mu return to his defensive spot. The gap was fully sealed, but Shi Yu was missing. They dragged him through. I yelled Shi Yu's name, pulling my bone blade from inventory, ready to rush in. But someone else was way faster. Lai burst out of the circle without hesitation. Shi Yu had basically raised this kid after his sub-father Kai passed away. He absolutely wouldn't let him be taken, not on his watch. Mu instantly shifted sideways to cover Lai's empty spot, leaving his own side completely exposed. The rogues flooded both openings. A whole dozen piled onto Lai, burying him under their heavy bodies. More attackers turned on Mu, slamming his side and trapping both his forepaws, trying aggressively to drag him out of the safe zone. The 3 adults couldn't assist. Each was battling multiple enemies while desperately protecting the scared sub-beasts right behind them. Li, Mu's dad, kept glancing back with furious red eyes, barely stopping himself from leaving his post to rescue his boy. "So what would you and I do here?" "Exactly." I told the system to cloak me, grabbed my poison blade, and charged the enemy. In the epic chaos of giant beasts clashing, absolutely nobody noticed one tiny human slipping through. "You and I are jumping right in." I swung the blade with everything I had. Direct hit. The rogue recoiled from the sudden shock, his grip slipping. Mu instantly yanked one paw free, fighting back hard and throwing the other attacker off. The injured enemy spotted me sprinting behind Mu. He let out a furious roar. A sub-beast actually challenged him. He lunged right at me, but Mu dove in front. I yelled out that my weapon had a paralytic, the exact same stuff he accidentally tasted earlier. He only needed to stall, no head-on clashes. Mu caught on instantly, shifting straight into pure defense. Just seconds later, the poisoned enemy wobbled and crashed down, completely out. Everyone just froze. Li totally grabbed the chance to bluff, yelling that their whole crew would keep dropping one by one and never wake up. Some enemies paused, but their leader wasn't fooled. If we actually had a weapon like that, we would have used it right from the start. He doubled down, promising that any fighter who took down our beastmen would get a sub-beast, all to themselves. The pack went totally wild with renewed frenzy. More enemies piled onto Li. Over a dozen surrounded him, literally bumping into each other. I only knew he was still holding on because every now and then, an enemy would go flying straight backward. Mu stepped in front of me, ordering me to stay back. Beastmen were incredibly tough to defeat, even when outnumbered. We just had to hold out for the tribe's backup. Now pay attention, things get intense here. If Li just held on, we could save him. I gripped my blade, hoping Fei found the patrol. Just when things felt completely hopeless, an eagle's cry shattered the sky. Then a massive roar I would recognize anywhere. Sean. His giant black form came charging in from the distance, Dozens of tribe warriors rushing right behind him. Fei actually found them. Fei dove straight into the mob surrounding Li, striking hard with his sharp talons before soaring right back up out of reach. The backup crashed into the enemies, and the numbers totally flipped in our favor. The enemy boss saw the tide turning and yelled to retreat. But I was frantically scanning the chaos for Kai Yu. Then I saw him, pinned under a huge hyena beastman at the back of the escaping group, stuck on the ground, but fiercely swinging his bone sword. I screamed out for Sean, pounding Mu's shoulder and pointing right at the hyena. The battlefield was just too loud. I wasn't sure Sean heard me, so Mu unleashed a massive roar instead. Sean heard it, smashed through every enemy in his path, and charged straight toward the back line. Li followed right behind him, while Fei circled above, completely blocking the hyena's escape. The hyena realized he was trapped. In sheer panic, he decided to finish Caillou off right in front of us. He raised his giant paw high. Kai, you absolutely couldn't run. His knee was already hurt. He squeezed his eyes shut, but the strike never hit. The hyena wobbled, legs shaking uncontrollably. He got stabbed. You saw that, right? Kai, you actually used the bone sword Zhao made. The one completely covered in blackthorn juice. The paralytic kicked in right on time. It gave Fei the exact seconds needed to swoop down and grab Kai Yu, while Sean violently tackled the hyena to the ground. Standing over the knocked out enemy with one paw pinning him down, Sean looked totally shaken. I absolutely knew what he was thinking. If that poison took just 1 second longer, his subfather would have been lost forever, right before his eyes. Just like Kai Yi, exactly 10 years ago. But today, the weapon I helped make totally changed the outcome. This time, nobody was lost. The remaining enemies sprinted away, leaving over a dozen fallen behind. Our fighters chased them completely out of the zone before finally turning back. Li was in incredibly bad shape. Gashes covered his entire body, leaving him barely able to stand. When Fei brought Shoya back, Li forced himself over, pressing his head against Shoya with tearful eyes. Shoya gently stroked his fur, crying completely silently. She had watched it all from under that paw. Li rushing out to protect her, getting buried by enemies, and me charging with my tiny blade. I pushed right through the worried crowd and knelt beside Li. He needed herbs immediately, or the severe damage would finish him. I yelled for medicine. He was fading away way too fast. We absolutely had to treat it now. Shuiyu's injuries were also terrible. His knees were scraped completely raw from being brutally dragged around. He couldn't stand. When I asked for medicine, a trembling voice replied right away. It was Ruya, that super curious young sub-beast from earlier. He actually brought herbs from home, hoping to gather even more out in the wild. His hands were completely shaking, tears marking his face. But he shoved that bundle straight into my hands without any hesitation. Both kinds of healing herbs were in there, perfectly preserved, and definitely enough for severe wounds. I quickly had Li shift to human form. Ruya and I chewed the herbs, packing them onto every single spot that was injured. The absolute worst. Shoya then fed Li the special vitality grass, and color finally returned to his face. He was actually going to pull through. So what do we take from all this? Family is everything. Li quietly grabbed the leftover herbs, pulling Mu aside to heal his son, while others licked their own injuries. Stick with me. Shin returned holding Chio's bone sword, the exact weapon that saved his subfather's life. I scanned Lai using the system, completely stable, no broken bones, just serious surface wounds and major energy drain. Rest was all he needed. The beastmen were furious. Everyone shouted about hunting those rogues down. They had attacked weaker tribes before. One tribe lost 20 sub-beasts, and only 4 returned. Everyone agreed. These rogues had to be eliminated or driven away forever. Shin stayed completely quiet, but looking into his eyes, I knew he wasn't going to let this slide. We headed home in formation, sub-beasts riding beastmen, wounded guarded in the center. I rode Shin's back, traveling alongside Chio and a sleeping Lai. Once home, Shin carried Lai into Chio's house. They kept a room ready, since Chio raised him after a past tragedy. Shin left to report everything to the chief, while I stayed to patch up Chio. Looking at his battered body, guilt hit me so hard. He actually pushed me out of danger. If he hadn't, I'd be taken. He saw my face and lightly smacked my head. Stop that. I consider you my own child. A parent protects their child. Don't give me that look. He then whispered. This time, I managed to save my child. It clicked. In this entire tribe, Chio was the only black-haired, black-eyed sub-beast until Inan came along. When Shin first brought me here, Chio saw me from far away, and for one single heartbeat, he thought his Inan finally came home. I leaned right over and wrapped my arms around him. Watch closely here. I had been terrified and lonely since arriving in this world. But holding Chio, I realized everything just shifted. I had a family here now. When Shin returned after settling everyone, he found me and Zhao Yi just hugging. He stood there so awkwardly, totally unsure what to do, until Zhao Yi finally noticed him and completely snapped back to normal. They quickly discussed the current situation. Lai was resting soundly. Herbs were returned to Ruya's family. Fei was already flying to find Xia's hunting party. While Zhao Yi slept, Shan pulled me outside. He thanked me, saying, without my warning, nobody gets saved. I argued back. Zhao Yi pushed me from danger. The guards fought incredibly hard. Mu even shielded me personally. I blamed myself for missing the threat. Shang frantically cut me off. He insisted that without those blackthorn grass weapons, Mu would be dragged away. All sub-beasts captured before help arrived, and his sub-father would be gone forever. His voice broke. Only 18, barely an adult, he almost lost his entire family. I hugged him tight, talking him down until his breathing finally steadied. Then I asked him what those rogue beastmen actually were. He revealed absolutely everything. 3 years ago, around 200 adult males appeared. No families, and completely no territory. They raided Water Forest Tribe first, kidnapping 20 sub-beasts and taking down over 12 beastmen. Days later, survivors found the kidnapped victims dumped in the patrol zone, severely injured. The ones missing were gone forever. They struck Water Forest and Stone Corner tribes multiple times since. Luckily, tribe defenses improved, so those rogues didn't always succeed. After a year of silence, everyone assumed they had moved on. Sadly, they were entirely wrong. This time, the rogues targeted our 37 unprotected sub-beasts. Without Mu and Lai impulsively tagging along, the outcome would have been a complete disaster. Let me pause here. Hearing what those rogues did to captured sub-beasts, my absolute worst nightmare. Nearly 200 beastmen treating kidnapped sub-beasts like absolute disposable garbage. The most vile thing since arriving here. I touched Shin's shoulder and made a solid promise. I'll make this tribe stronger, I swear. Shin watched me silently, then whispered, and I'll protect you. If anything in this world confuses you, tell me first. Just promise me. Zhao rushed back from the hunting party and went straight over to Kai Yuyi's bedside. Seeing this incredibly powerful chief kneel by his partner, hand shaking, too afraid to even touch him, it hit me so hard. He whispered that surviving was enough. The shake in his voice betrayed what his face tried to hide. Shin mentioned they were together since childhood, literally bonding the exact moment they came of age. Zhao spent every free moment by his side due to his health. I deeply respected their bond. When Zhao emerged, he pulled himself together, at least outwardly. He bowed to thank me. I panicked and hilariously tangled myself around Shin's arm. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see what happens next. That absurdity lifted Zhao's mood slightly. You and I know this feeling perfectly. When Zhao ordered me to the council room, my social anxiety absolutely skyrocketed. I tried sneaking away, but Shin immediately caught me, gently patted my head, and kindly offered to let me hide behind him like always. When I stubbornly refused, he casually scooped me up with one arm and walked. I instantly panicked and thrashed around, terrified that people would see. He was totally unmoved. I surrendered and quickly promised to go willingly. He set me down, but still held onto my arm. I lasted about 3 steps before attempting another quick escape. He caught me mid-stride, smoothly tossed me onto his shoulder, and just kept walking. Even the system chimed in. purely mocking my absolute foolishness for thinking I could ever outrun a beastman. After making one more totally desperate promise, with a genuine guarantee this time, Sean finally let me walk alone. Though he kept a strong grip on my arm the entire way, the threat was crystal clear. Run again, and he would carry me inside right over his shoulder for everybody to see. The council room itself was absolutely massive, several times larger than any ordinary house. Now pay attention. Inside, Xia waited alongside 7 absolutely massive beastmen, and whatever was being discussed was incredibly serious. And apparently, I was required to participate. Sean practically dragged me into that council room where Xia and 7 important beastmen were already sitting there waiting. I only recognized 3 of them: Li, Fei, and Lan, the brave hunting leader. The others were strangers, but clearly senior figures in our tribe. I was totally the only sub-beast in the room. To my huge relief, Xia skipped the boring formalities and cut straight to the chase. Rogue beastmen had attacked our gathering team, and we desperately needed to decide what to do. The room exploded with opinions. Li and most others wanted to hunt the rogues down and either eliminate them entirely or chase them away permanently. Fei sharply noted how precious sub-beasts were, declaring this cowardly attack completely unforgivable. Everyone was completely furious. Only Lan stayed quiet, thinking. When Xia asked his view, he raised the huge practical problem everyone was ignoring. The rogues numbered 200. To fight them head-on, our tribe would need a comparable force. But who would defend the village and hunt for daily food while they were gone? We simply didn't have enough fighting power. Sean finally spoke up, his voice hard. He explained that today's fight clearly proved those rogues were individually much weaker than us. Even Mu and Lai, who weren't adults yet, could beat them one-on-one. Our adult beastmen could easily handle 2 rogues each. That meant needing fewer fighters. Lan wasn't convinced. Fewer warriors meant more risk for each person sent out. The discussion went back and forth. Everyone completely agreed the rogues had to disappear. Neighboring tribes suffered terribly, losing their people, failing hunts, and starving through winters. But the math simply didn't work. Not enough beastmen to fight, guard, and hunt at once. The room fell quiet with deep frustration. I sat there thinking how remarkably straightforward these people were. You see it too, right? They completely missed the obvious fix, planning to fight alone. I hesitated. I was brand new, didn't fully grasp tribal politics yet, and was terrified of saying something stupid. But Sean noticed my fidgeting. He gave me an encouraging pat on the back with a warm look. That instantly melted away my resistance. I took a deep breath and slowly raised my hand. Instantly, every eye in the room locked onto me. I genuinely shuddered internally. Could I still lower my hand and pretend nothing happened? Instead, I steadied myself and opened my mouth to speak. I nervously warned everyone I was new and might say something totally wrong. Then, I laid out my idea. Why try handling this alone? Those rogues had been brutally terrorizing 2 other nearby tribes for many years. Those tribes desperately wanted them gone just as badly. They just couldn't fight them alone either. So, why not join forces? 3 combined tribes, each contributing a portion of their fighters, could easily match the rogues' numbers without leaving any single tribe defenseless. The room fell quiet for a moment. Then Lan's eyes lit up. He immediately grasped the brilliant math. Instead of one tribe sending half its warriors and leaving itself exposed, 3 tribes could each send a smaller group and still function totally normally. Xia caught on too, energized for the first time since the meeting started. I quickly gave them a rough framework. We send 100 warriors, the others send 50 each. That makes 200 total, perfectly matching those rogues. I whispered it quietly to Sean, genuinely thinking nobody else could hear. But when I looked up, the entire room was staring at me in dead silence. Sean laughed. I shot him a deeply furious glare. We were supposed to be in a serious meeting. Sean approved the plan immediately, and the discussion shifted to selecting who would go. Li claimed a spot first. They had mauled his son Mu, and he desperately wanted payback. Fei proudly volunteered too. Soon, Everyone was intensely arguing over who got to go, ready to fight each other for the honor. Sean watched silently, fists tightly clenched behind his back. I could tell he desperately wanted to go himself. As chief, he couldn't leave the tribe long, so 3 seniors stayed. Trust me, you'll want to see what happens next. Let's jump right into this. Sean, Long, and Shu are staying behind with the young warriors. Sean announces they will depart in 10 days. He sounds calm, but I feel his total frustration at staying put. I look at Sean, and he just shakes his head. Nothing to do. But then, the curtain flies open, and a limping figure steps right in. It is Yang. Everyone is shocked. He hasn't joined tribal matters since that terrible tragedy 10 years ago. Ignoring the whole room, he marches straight up to Sean, staring him right in the face. You really want to go, right, Sean? The entire room goes completely silent. Yang's sudden arrival changes everything. He looks right through him. Sean wants nothing more than to fight those rogues himself. But he can't just drop his duty as chief. Yang just tells him to go. He will watch the tribe. Everyone is stunned. 10 years of isolation, and now this. But he is totally serious, and his wild offer shatters the tension. Suddenly, the other beastmen are teasing Sean, pushing him to accept. They even joke about him and Yang fighting like the good old days. Beneath the jokes, pure joy. Yang is finally stepping back into the light. Without hesitation, Sean accepts. For the first time today, his eyes actually look alive again. After the big meeting, I swing by Shi Ye's place to check on Li. You and I have to admire this guy's spirit. Covered in injuries, yet his first question is if tonight's barbecue is still happening. I just shake my head. I tell him we are postponing until he heals up, promising the next feast will be amazing with proper seasonings. Both he and Xian instantly perk up at those words. Looks like I just promised a massive feast. Back home, get straight to work. We only have 10 days before the big expedition departs. 2 flying beastmen are heading out to negotiate the alliance with other tribes. Meanwhile, Xian officially arranges to stay right by my side to help. I pull out my potatoes and sweet potatoes from storage, showing them off to Xian. I break it down. Huge harvest, easy to grow, lasts all winter, and edible leaves. Seeing him open his mouth to ask where I found them, I quickly shut that down. No questions allowed. He blinks and says he just wanted to know how to eat them. Oops. I am so used to hiding secrets. I forgot Xian stopped questioning my mysteries long ago. I walk him through it. Potatoes must be cooked. Never eat them if they sprout. Sweet potatoes are fine raw, but way better cooked. Then, I drag him to my garden plot and demonstrate exactly how to plant them. Chop into chunks with sprout eyes, bury them, add water, and wait 3 to 4 months. I have about 90 pounds of each left. If the tribe sets aside land to plant now in spring, we can score a massive harvest by autumn. Sure, beastmen still need meat, but for the sub-beasts, starving during those harsh winter months could permanently become a thing of the past. Here is a twist for us. Xian actually suggests I take full control of this entire farming project. Once Kai Yue recovers, he will send sub-beasts to help out, all working entirely under my direction. Then it hits me. I realize Xian is actively building my reputation in the tribe. He knows my secrets cannot stay hidden forever. The higher my rank, the safer I will be. Absolutely brilliant thinking from someone I seriously kept underestimating. I also show off my new herb garden. Growing our own medicine is way better than risky, wild foraging, even though I do not have results yet. Later that afternoon, Sean carries me straight to the bamboo forest. I pick out 2 perfect trees, and he chops them down. That recent enemy attack forced me to rethink our defenses completely. During the fight, over 30 sub-beasts just stood there helpless, while a tiny handful of beastmen took all the heavy hits. If we only had ranged weapons, the sub-beasts could easily support from behind the lines instead of just being totally helpless. Targets. My brilliant solution? Make bows. I watched plenty of bamboo bow making videos back home, so I remember enough to try. A crossbow would be epic, but I need system shop blueprints for that, and my energy is 0. Simple bows. I can easily attempt those from memory. Heading back, two young beastmen named Dan and Dong spot us dragging the heavy bamboo. They jump right in, eagerly volunteering to help. With three strong beastmen following my lead, that bamboo is split, measured, and shaped into solid bow bodies in under an hour. Work that would have easily taken me an entire afternoon all alone. By nightfall, we finally have three rough bow frames ready for tomorrow's shaping. Dan and Dong promise they will return. Afterwards, I ask Sean to find some super strong animal sinew for bowstrings. Something insanely tough. Material that a sub-beast absolutely cannot snap, even pulling with maximum strength. He just scratches his head, confirming the tribe has plenty of sinew exactly like that lying around. Think about what this means for us. If these bows work, every sub-beast becomes a capable fighter instead of a liability. After finalizing all those heavy bowstring details with Sean, finding that perfect sweet spot of flexibility and strength, I finally call it a night. Let's dive in. Our guy's sleep curse had 8 days left. Soon, he could finally work those late nights freely. Lying there, he realized he totally forgot to build a cabinet again. Upgrading his daily life would have to wait. Urgent things first. The system popped up with crazy notifications. Hidden tasks completed for surviving the rogue attack without any losses. And teaching someone farming. It also issued a random task to finish that bamboo bow. This got him thinking about the system's weird behavior. It almost never gave tasks proactively. Mostly, it just announced completions after everything happened. It really seemed like it knew the goal was developing the tribe, but had absolutely no idea how. It left everything to him, never interfering, only appearing during his downtime. Almost polite, right? He just couldn't resist poking it. System, are you actually professional? Its response back was purely ice cold. Instead of answering, it announced that since his energy storage had sufficient funds, it was automatically collecting repayment for that emergency energy loaned out during the rogue attack. Half his energy vanished instantly. He accused it of pure petty revenge. It calmly explained that the danger alert alone drained all his stored energy, and that subsequent cloaking was actually a direct loan from the system's very own reserves. Completely justified. No grudges involved. He rubbed his nose, suspecting if he hadn't provoked it, the system might have quietly forgotten that debt. A harsh lesson learned. Let that sink in. Never tease the entity controlling your resources. Good night, system. Then, good night, host. The next morning, he watered the crops and checked his herb garden. The plants looked incredibly healthy, which was encouraging. He greeted Sean, in with Dan, Dawn, and breakfast. They finished polishing those 3 bow frames while our guy ate. Moose showed up shortly after with the sinew, tree resin, and feathers he had requested. He was already looking much better. Beastman healing is truly remarkable. Moose showed up looking so completely healed. His absolute worst injuries were 2 paw bites almost reaching the bone, but everything else had already scabbed right over. Beastman recovery never stopped amazing him. He assembled the very first bow by braiding sinew into a string and firmly attaching it to those notched ends. Bending that bamboo into shape was brutally hard. This world's bamboo was far tougher than normal, and he needed Sheen's help to finish stringing it. The pole weight was super heavy for him, but manageable. All 4 beastmen tested it, finding it effortless, which meant the sub-beasts should be able to use it with just a little effort. Absolutely perfect. When he asked about the feathers for arrows, Sean casually mentioned they plucked them directly from Faye that morning. Our guy was horrified. Sean explained it like it was the most normal thing in the entire world. The tribe rarely hunted birds, so Faye was the absolute fastest source. And he didn't shed much naturally. He made a mental note to find bird hunting alternatives before Faye started holding a massive grudge. The team turned out 10 arrows incredibly quickly. Bamboo shafts sharpened and fire hardened at the tips. Feathers glued on with tree resin. And clean notches carved at the tail. Now watch this closely. He knocks an arrow, aims at a tree 20 meters away, and lets it fly. He missed the tree completely, but the arrow violently slammed into the ground, burying itself a third of its length deep. The power was genuinely shocking, far beyond any simple bamboo bow from his world. Mu ran over and actually struggled to pull it out. Dan and Dong stood there with their mouths totally hanging open. Sean already guessed what he was building and stayed calm, but the excitement in his eyes was crystal clear. He explained his thinking to him. During that recent attack, 30+ sub-beasts were completely useless inside the defensive circle. With bows, they could have provided covering fire, maybe prevented Caillou from getting grabbed, and greatly reduced the pressure on Lion and Mu. Range support literally changes everything. Sean leaned close, sharing something he hadn't fully appreciated. Beastmen rarely fell in direct combat. They were way too tough to defeat unless massively outmatched or completely surrounded. Most losses happen either from severe hunting injuries causing uncontrollable damage, or while purely defending sub-beasts, because protecting someone right behind you meant you couldn't fight at full strength or retreat. His herbs addressed that first problem. The bow and the poison blade addressed the second by finally giving sub-beasts the real ability to fight back. Beastmen protectors could finally focus more on offense instead of pure defense. He thought he was just helping sub-beasts survive. Shin helped him see he was actually freeing the beastmen to fight at their absolute best. The exact moment Mu, Dan, and Dong saw what this bow could do, they surrounded him, begging for weapons for their own sub-beast parents. He promised them bows would be available to everyone, and he'd give the design to the chief for immediate mass production. They could practice making their own with leftover bamboo pieces right now. Trust me, we're going to love this. Poison blades are simple, and within 3 days, the design goes to Xia and massive bow production is underway. The tribe went into absolute lockdown mode. Sharp wooden spikes covered the entire perimeter, completely drenched in that paralyzing blackthorn juice. They tested the juice on a huge captured monster, pushing it right onto the spikes during a practice brawl. Once pierced, the monster stumbled within 2 minutes. That is plenty of time for a beastman to easily take it down without even waiting for full paralysis. They even tried eating meat from a tainted catch. The numbness was super light and vanished in 15 minutes. But everyone still agreed to wait for it to fade before eating. Absolutely no point taking risks. Stick with me here, because this world's power scale is completely wild. Beastmen judged monsters by size, but the system ranked combat power as low, mid, and high tier. Even tiny monsters could be high tier, though super rare. The shadow monster that Shin defeated was actually just mid to low within the high tier. When I asked the system why 5 adults could not defeat it 10 years ago, the final answer completely blew my mind. By system standards, only pre-injury Yang actually counted as a truly standard adult beastman. Everyone else was below that level. This meant Shin taking down that shadow monster totally solo was way more incredible than I ever realized. Earning massive energy from the new weapons and defenses, I focused on living better. Shin built me a wooden cabinet, and Dan and Dong instantly copied it. I wove cool grass sandals that totally grabbed everyone's attention. Every tiny invention brought steady energy, so I spent my savings on 2 system shop blueprints, pottery making, and plant fiber weaving. Both were totally crucial for upgrading the tribe. I almost bought ash clay containers, but decided to figure that out myself. Then Shin suddenly showed up, looking extremely happy. The tribe just organized a massive combat tournament for the underage beastmen. The top 10 joined the rogue expedition. Every teen 14 and up was hyped. Watch closely, it dragged Shin straight to the square. I absolutely was not missing this. This whole tournament only happened because Mu literally could not stop bragging while he recovered. He bragged to the younger guys about fighting alongside adults, making Dan, Dong, and everyone else demand a chance to join the expedition too. They totally bothered Xia until he finally agreed. Honestly, it turned out the tribal leadership was already planning on it anyway. The rogues were super weak, making it perfect training. The teens would handle rear medical support, not the front line. Mu and Lai did not even have to compete. Their epic performance during the past attack easily earned them guaranteed spots right outside the 10 tournament slots. Lai looked pretty rough with scars everywhere, but he was incredibly proud of them. Shin guided me through the crowd for seats and played commentator for every single match. The first fight featured a 17-year-old Red Fox and a Serval Beastman. They were longtime rivals, and that fox was clever. Instead of chasing his speedy opponent, he held his ground, using his massive fluffy tail to completely block any sneaky flanking attacks. When the Serval abandoned agility for a head-on clash, the fox smoothly tricked him right out of bounds without him ever noticing. Brains over raw brawn. Shin explained that the power boost at adulthood was absolutely massive for all beastmen. Strength, speed, and reflexes multiply overnight. In tribal history, only pre-injury Yang and Shin himself were powerful enough to battle adults. While still underage, Mu and Li could totally handle weak rogues, but against their own tribe's fierce adults, they would not stand a chance. I know what you are thinking, and yes, I loved every single second. Shin kept leaning close to whisper tactical analysis about the fighters, which was surprisingly super helpful, and honestly, really sweet. I caught myself thinking that whoever ended up as his future partner would be incredibly lucky. I quickly brushed that aside when the next round began. I actually got distracted recognizing a fighter as a mountain lion, and just blurted it right out. That instantly sparked a massive conversation. Everyone suddenly wanted to know exactly what their beast forms were called back in my world. I called Dan an African lion and explained Mu was a brown bear despite his black fur. Since his dad was one, Mu looked super thrilled to be unique. The epic battles continued. Dong easily won his match against the mountain lion, which honestly left me pretty impressed. But when I praised Dong out loud, Shin went totally silent beside me, looking adorably sulky. Mu and Li immediately jumped in, reminding me Shin was obviously the strongest. I instantly agreed, making Shin look away, completely flustered. It was adorable. This absolute legend who soloed a shadow monster was literally pouting just because I complimented someone else. I decided not to tease him anymore. He is 4 years younger than me anyway. Then Dan's match started, and the entire vibe instantly dropped. His opponent was Ye the Lynx, and everyone panicked. Trust me, you and I are going to want to see how this plays out. Dong confidently declared they should just leave Dan behind and go as four. Shin confirmed. Ye was definitely the strongest underage beast man around, holding second place right behind Shin until Shin finally came of age himself. Shin quietly noted that Ye could easily battle grown beastmen, challenging Shin to an intense duel just before Shin's coming of age. Dong insisted Shin had won effortlessly, but Shin gave me a very meaningful look, quietly admitting that without his own mysterious inner power to rely on, that victory wouldn't have been so incredibly easy. You and I totally know his secret. Dan lost incredibly fast, zero suspense. Ye just walked away completely expressionless, glancing back at Shin on his way out. Dong instantly demanded that Shin completely crush Ye again once he came of age. The other teenage beast men completely roasted Dong for holding a petty childhood grudge over Ye, ignoring him. All the cheerful bickering made the whole scene feel wonderfully alive, way more like a family than a simple tribe. The lively tournament lasted all day. 46 fighters split into winners and losers brackets using a clever matching system with carved wooden blocks drawn from a bowl. I was absolutely amazed by this incredibly smart competition setup. These fierce beast men had designed something shockingly close to a highly modern tournament bracket system. Walking back home, excitedly told Shin how thrilling those fights had been. He mentioned a massive adults-only tournament happening right after the big autumn hunt, quietly adding he would be competing. I got absolutely hyped and instantly promised to bring our entire gang to wildly cheer for him. His ears flushed red. Before he left, I gently tugged his hide skirt. Watch closely now, we are finally about to uncover the real, hidden history between Dong and the Lynx Beast Man. Ye. Shin sighed heavily, explaining how Ye was discovered at age 10 during early winter, injured, freezing, and desperately stealing food near the tribe. Dong's father brought him inside, but he acted incredibly hostile. He viciously attacked anyone getting close, absolutely refused any food unless he stole it himself, and constantly tried escaping. Eventually, they learned he would accept things from sub-beasts and tolerate beastmen. If a sub-beast was present, Dong's sub-father asked him to befriend Ye. So, Dong confidently marched right up to this incredibly traumatized, feral kid, loudly announced they were best friends, and casually patted his shoulder. Ye dodged and bolted. Dong angrily approached Shin, talking absolute trash about Ye, begging Shin to beat him up. Thinking Ye bullied his best friend, Shin actually went, but got caught by Chui before anything went down, and got severely scolded instead. Dong faced worse punishment. His sub-father made Dong's father drag him right in front of Ye and beat him. Ye was so deeply shocked, he instantly rushed in to stop it. Ironically, that intense incident finally made Ye accept the tribe as his real home. But Dong nursed a silly grudge ever since. Nothing super serious, just lingering embarrassment from that awkward ordeal. Hearing this story made me softly laugh, and then feel deeply sad. Let that sink in for a second. A lone child surviving winter means absolute tragedy. Whenever anyone asked him about his past, he firmly declared Green Mountain was his home now, and completely refused to speak. Shin cheerfully asked if I wanted to watch day 2 of the tournament. I felt totally torn. I just bought cool pottery and weaving blueprints from the system shop, and desperately needed to start them. But the thrilling fights were only 3 days long, and I could easily finish those crafting projects afterward, with days to spare before our big expedition. I happily told Shin I'd go watch. Building a small kiln alone couldn't be that hard. I'd been leaning on him way too much anyway. Though honestly, that was his fault for being so amazingly helpful that I just got lazy. The system loudly woke me right before Shin actually arrived. I totally scrambled to prepare, and when Shin suddenly saw me brushing my teeth, he thought I was intensely grinding them down, like wild beastmen do on wood. I quickly explained it was just cleaning, and he mentioned sub-beasts here use the furry side of animal hides to furiously scrub their teeth. I instantly made a mental note to craft proper toothbrushes for everyone. At the lively square, Xiao Yu was already waiting, healing beautifully, though his knee still looked pretty nasty under thick scabs. He cheerfully waved me over, happily reminding me he'd soon help organize our farming project. Xiao left to handle other business, including that bow workshop I eagerly suggested he set up. That awesome workshop idea came from an insightful conversation with Li regarding the tribe's elderly and disabled beastmen. They served the tribe in their prime and were cared for now, but they absolutely hated feeling totally useless. Crafting bows was absolutely perfect, offering meaningful work that didn't require full physical strength. When Xiao organized them into a dedicated production team, they felt incredibly grateful. The second day of fights was run by Shu, the veteran beastman trainer who knew every kid's abilities. These matches were incredibly intense and totally straightforward. Beastman combat lacked fancy techniques, relying entirely on raw power, smart positioning, and wild survival instincts. So what do you and I make of this? Fighters held back today, but real combat changes absolutely everything. Stick with me here, Xiao analyzed quietly, while Dong faced an older rival. He explained that Dong, Dan, Mu, and Li shared incredible fighting instincts. They easily punched above their weight, using clever tactics, totally overcoming any gap in raw physical strength. Listening in, Xiao Yu noted how this new generation of young beastmen felt wildly stronger than his own peers ever did. Back in his day, only Yang was on another level. Shi and Lan were powerful too, but the power gap between them and everyone else was pretty standard. Suddenly, cold, gloomy voice echoed right behind us. It is a good thing, even if the reason is unknown. I spun around to find the source. It was Yang at the tournament. Xia had sent him to check on Shuyi. Sitting beside us, he watched the epic battles with sharp, absolute focus. Despite that freezing aura of his, he genuinely cared about these fierce young fighters. Dong's second match was a real struggle. Facing a much older opponent, he got pushed dangerously close to the ring boundaries multiple times. Now watch this closely. Dong faked being trapped, dodged flawlessly, and slammed the older guy completely out of the ring from behind. The entire crowd went wild. Dong's father beamed from the stands, and I found myself smiling at his absolute pride. Next up was Yi the Lynx. His opponent looked incredibly tough. Shin mentioned this guy was a huge contender for the finals, but against Yi, total mismatch. The rival played it smart, dodging direct hits and heavily focusing on pure defense. But Yi just waited patiently, then suddenly exploded forward with insane, blinding speed. Faked a strike. He launched onto his back. When the fighter tried rolling him off, Yi shifted perfectly, instantly locking his jaws right around his opponent's throat. Game totally over. Shin and Yang called the match at the exact same second. He lost, they declared, before it even officially ended. The beaten fighter smiled gracefully, promising Yi he would train harder and win someday. Beside me, Shin grew totally silent. When I asked what happened, he quietly admitted that Yi had once made that exact same promise to him. I called that seriously impressive, making him duck his head in absolute embarrassment. Meanwhile, Yang delivered a blunt lesson to lie nearby. When you are truly strong, you never care about who you fight next. He pointed straight at Shin and Ya as perfect examples. Lai nodded frantically, exactly like a hungry little chick. Mu and I locked eyes, both fighting back loud laughter at how incredibly tame the fierce Lai became. Around his dad, the whole square buzzed with exactly one thought. You feel that too, right? This generation is completely unstoppable. People kept comparing Ya and Shin to a young Yang, buzzing about how this talent pool completely shattered all the previous village records. The entire tribe was leveling up, and everyone knew it. During the next bouts, Yang shocked me by breaking down tactics. When I asked if Ya's throat strike would mean game over out in the wild, Yang stepped up with the answer. The actual danger was not the neck bite, but Ya's back claws digging right into the opponent's stomach. Blocking one attack meant totally exposing another critical weak spot. That is exactly why the fighter surrendered. Yang told Mu and Lai to memorize that combo and figure out a real counter. Both boys turned deeply serious right away. A few more battles passed. One guy who really grabbed my attention was a deer beast, man. Super rare among these big cats. He seemed totally ordinary, fighting a much younger kid. But during round 2, he absolutely wrecked a peer with one single, incredibly devastating, entirely unstoppable charge. Shin realized he was hiding his true power. After morning battles, we walked Zhao Yi home. The afternoon matches ended incredibly fast, way less competitive and exciting. Dan easily secured his victory this time. Suddenly, a messenger arrived. Fei finally returned from the diplomatic mission. We rushed straight to the council tent. The news was an absolute dream. Both tribes enthusiastically agreed to the major alliance without any hesitation. Water Forest tribe accepted instantly. Those rogues had actually ambushed them days before our own clash, hurting a dozen beastmen. They were completely desperate to fight back immediately. Stone Corner tribe joined up just as fast, instantly recalling their gathering teams after hearing those dangerous rogues were back. I breathed out huge relief. My strategy worked perfectly. The alliance was officially happening. The meeting wrapped up minor logistics, mission progress, and departure plans, ensuring every single detail would be perfect in the remaining days. Shiroi sat peacefully beside Shiro. She was already planning how to keep the remaining sub-beasts totally calm, while 100 warriors marched away. Walking home later, a sudden wave of guilt hit me. I had grand plans, but moved way too slow. My pottery, kiln, and weaving ideas sat completely untouched. Trust me, we're just getting started. I told Sheen tomorrow is strictly about building. Let's dive back into this wild story. He did not even question my change of heart, just offered help. Next morning, I was already waiting. Seeing me so eager actually made him super happy. I hopped right onto his back, gave a quick pat, and boom, we blasted into the patrol zone like pure lightning. Weeks of intense practice meant I finally handled his insane speed. Shin brought me straight to a creek to grab clay for my epic pottery project. 2 hours of digging gave us enough for 5 kilns, just in case. Back home, I constructed my very first kiln. A half-meter pit, a clay grate, and a 70-centimeter cylinder. Honestly, it looked way more like a basic cooking stove than a real kiln. While waiting for drying time, we molded simple bowls, pots, and cups. Zero artistic talent between us, so they were definitely ugly, but totally functional. Suddenly, I remembered that ash clay technique from before. We burned huge piles of bark and leaves, mixed the ash with water, and shaped a bunch more containers. Turns out, those ash vessels slowly leaked when filled with water. Half the water vanished overnight, but they worked flawlessly for dry goods. With fired pottery and ash containers combined, my kitchen setup was looking real solid. The intense tournament wrapped up over 3 days. 10 final spots filled up, plus Mu and Lai guaranteed their places. 12 young beastmen joined the major expedition. Dan barely grabbed that very last slot, yet his connections secured his place super easily. Most winners were 17, with only Mu, Lai, and another guy at 16. Dan and Don were the absolute youngest at 15. On day 9, right before departure, I finally delivered on my big promise. I set up an outdoor stone griddle, sent Sean and Mu hunting, and prepared an epic barbecue feast. Slicing the meat super thin, I rubbed in crushed salt, garlic, and ginger, searing it perfectly on hot stone. The moment that meat hit the sizzling stone, the fragrant smoke alone made all 4 young beastmen lose their minds. Mu was literally drooling right there. I kept telling them it was not ready, but they just stared with desperate intensity. Sean, who actually tasted my cooking before, had way more self-control. He waited for the absolute perfect second, swooped in using 2 sticks, swept half the finished meat into bowls, and walked right over to me. He told them I already demonstrated the technique, so they could cook the rest. I just sat with Sean, eating stolen barbecue, completely grinning from ear to ear. It was honestly delicious. That simple garlic and salt transformed the meat entirely. Behind us, 4 beastmen completely fought over griddle space, burning fingers and stuffing their faces. Pay close attention here. Tomorrow, 100 warriors march out, but tonight, we just simply ate and laughed together. Morning of departure hit. Over 100 beastmen gathered in the square in full beast form, totally surrounded. Sia stood fiercely up front as a massive leopard. Lee the bear, Dan's lion, father, and Shin the black panther flanked right behind him. Face circled high overhead as a giant eagle. Lan promised Sia to go without worry, saying he and Yan would protect the tribe. Yan looked at Sia, glanced back at Shi Yue, and quietly reminded him that absolutely everyone's lives mattered most. Sia followed his gaze, looked at Shi Yue one final time, and nodded firmly. Turning to address his fierce warriors, he declared, this was not a simple hunt. Their enemy? 200 rogue beast men who raided tribes, brutalized sub-beasts, and ruined lives without any mercy. He roared, asking if they felt afraid. 100 voices roared back, not afraid. Drive them out. Take them down. The sheer sound shook the earth. I know you felt those chills too. I instinctively turned to check on Shin beside me, then suddenly remembered he was gone. He was actually out there among the warriors. I spotted him in the crowd, a black panther howling at the sky. He must have felt my gaze, because he stopped mid-roar and stared directly at me. For just 1 second, all that wild ferocity vanished. Only his striking green eyes met mine across the distance. Then, Sia gave the ultimate command, and they marched out. 112 beastmen, 100 adults and 12 teenagers, heading to Stone Corner, then Waterfall Tribe, before sweeping the entire territory for rogues. Shin estimated this intense mission would take 1 to 2 months. I watched until they completely vanished from sight, gently touching Shi Yue's shoulder. He just stared at the empty horizon. Let's head back. We can't see them anymore. Turning to me, he softly mentioned how these tribes had lived so peacefully for generations. They had never fought other beast men before. He was genuinely worried, but I firmly promised they would all return. Our main job was holding everything together here. That finally settled him down. He straightened up, immediately shifting right back to business. He would start helping with my big farming project tomorrow. He would grab 3 quick learners exactly like I asked, working hard while the warriors were away. I wondered how to ask Beastmen for help with Shingon. Shi Yu explained that Xia and Shin perfectly arranged everything before leaving. I could go directly to Yang or Shu for absolutely anything I needed. That's where we leave it. I'll avoid bothering them unless absolutely necessary. Stick with me. With 100 warriors gone, the remaining beastmen were stretched totally thin, guarding, patrolling, and hunting. After walking Shiyu home, I headed straight back, dragging my potato stash out of storage and piling it all up for tomorrow's busy work. Plus, I had fresh clay from yesterday's creek run, completely ready to craft some awesome new pottery. My little kiln was blazing. The ash containers were perfect for dry storage, and I planned to stay super busy while Shin was gone. The village honestly felt way quieter and emptier, but hey, I had far too much work to just sit around feeling lonely. I missed this part, but I found out later what happened on the road. The expedition moved incredibly fast. These guys could sprint 2 days and a night straight, recovering after just 1 night's rest. They rotated shifts, half catching sleep in human form while riding on the backs of those in beast mode. During their first break, Xia noticed Shin had been acting way too quiet since they left. He sat right down beside his friend, gently asking what was on his mind. Shin was actually wrestling with something that bothered him incredibly deeply. Remember when the enemies attacked Water Forest 3 years ago? Green Mountain helped them survive winter, but nobody even thought about teaming up to drive those villains out completely. Pay attention here. If they had fought together back then, Stone Corner and Green Mountain would have never been targeted. Why didn't they think of that? Simple. Back then, it was absolutely not their problem. Those roaming villains hadn't hit their tribe, so they foolishly ignored it. Shin told Xia that my alliance idea suddenly made him realize something genuinely super important. 3 tribes sharing the exact same territory were never separate. A major threat to one was eventually a threat to everyone. If they kept ignoring Water Forest struggles, and the tribe fell, Green Mountain would lose vital allies and face that destructive force totally alone. Xia listened closely, admitting his past self would have completely ignored the issue, but now, he was not so sure that mindset was right anymore. Shin pushed harder, moving forward. If any neighbor faced trouble, they shouldn't look away. They needed to ask if it could affect them too, stepping up before things got worse. Because if those tribes vanished, nobody would be left to help. Xia totally understood, but he gently warned Shin that real change takes time. 3 independent tribes couldn't just change overnight. They needed to get so strong that everyone else saw Green Mountain as an amazing, reliable protector, worth joining. Shin totally accepted that. He was already thinking long term. Meanwhile, Li watched their entire deep conversation without understanding a single word. Honestly, he didn't care about strategy. His only job was fighting and taking orders. Still, he definitely sized the situation up well. Shin was going to surpass Xia someday. Plus, that clever sub-beast he brought home was absolutely no pushover either. He loudly slapped Mu on the back for 0 reason, leaving his poor son completely confused. Li figured things out faster. Li had just walked over from their direction, meaning something important was discussed. He didn't overthink it, just follow Shin. That was enough. Even Yuta quietly walked right past Mu, following Shin without saying a word. Despite what everyone wrongly assumed, Yuta never hated Shin. He respected him deeply, constantly using him as the ultimate standard to measure his own strength. He just never bothered explaining his feelings. Again, I wasn't there, but the guys eagerly told me all about it later on. Ready for this? On day 6, they finally reached Stone Corner. Their territory was totally different from ours, massive flat grasslands stretching everywhere. With the huge sun beating down so wonderfully warm, our men stopped 500 meters from the gates, waiting patiently while Xia proudly announced his arrival. Stone Corner's chief was a colossal rhinoceros beast man named She, standing nearly 5 meters tall. He and Sia were old buddies who hadn't seen each other in 15 years, completely losing freedom after becoming chiefs. Surprisingly, She was incredibly loud and cheerful, completely opposite to his terrifying appearance. But what truly grabbed everyone's attention was the cute sub-beast casually riding a young rhino beast man right beside the chief. The exact second he spotted Sean, he called out in this sweet but annoyed voice, "Sean, long time no see, why don't you ever visit me?" Instantly, every single guy from our tribe whipped around, staring right at Sean. The younger guys quickly surrounded him, eyes hungry for gossip. Moo even started poking his back. Even Lee frowned at Sean, looking highly disappointed. Meanwhile, Sean absolutely refused to even glance in that sub-beast's direction. He stared straight ahead at Sia, ears twitching nervously. Sia, probably thinking of someone special back home, smoothly redirected everything back to serious business. "Chief," she got serious immediately. His tribe had been prepping since our message arrived, ready to depart that very afternoon. They were incredibly eager. Those enemies tormented them for years, and now they wanted total revenge. "So what do you and I make of this drama?" The second she left, everyone absolutely mobbed Sean. When did he meet that sub-beast? Let's dive into this mystery. Was he secretly visiting other tribes? People joke Sean was collecting admirers from every tribe, including the sub-beast and me. Lee shoved right through the crowd, looking incredibly serious. "Sean, explain yourself now. Our tribe's beastmen cannot run around liking multiple people." Sean shook his head so wildly I thought it might honestly pop right off his shoulders. "I seriously do not like multiple people. Stop making up these crazy rumors." He looked so completely confused that Lee sighed heavily, demanding to know how he actually met the Stone Corner sub-beast. "I heard this second-hand, of course. But apparently, Xian spent the entire conversation completely refusing to look at that sub-beast, which practically told me, and honestly, everyone else, everything we really needed to know about his true focus." I heard the full, hilarious story later from the others and just laughed. After Lee's intense questioning, everyone went totally quiet, eagerly waiting for Xian to finally explain his Stone Corner connection. Xian just sat there with a totally blank expression for an awkward eternity before admitting he forgot. Eventually, the memory clicked, but only because he recognized the giant rhino beast man, not the sub-beast. 2 whole years ago, bored out of his mind because nobody could defeat him anymore, he wandered alone, stumbling across a sub-beast about to get hurt by a wild, raging beast. He defeated the beast, learned the kid was the Stone Corner chief's runaway son, and just casually escorted him part way home until his older brother finally arrived. Then Xian just happily left to find stronger opponents. He never even asked their names. The awkward silence after that confession was absolutely deafening. Everyone practically wanted to shake him. Lee, however, completely relaxed. This finally confirmed Xian was exactly as incredibly clueless about romance as he always seemed. Mu shattered the heavy tension by asking the only logical question. "So, what were their names?" Xian's perfectly blank face was answer enough. Xiao mercifully interrupted the moment, ordering everyone to go hunt and eat before they departed. Mu's stomach loudly growled on cue. "Watch closely." When Chief Shi emerged with his fighters, our beast men scrambled up from sunbathing, snapping into perfect formation like they were ready the whole time. She was totally shocked seeing 12 teenagers joining our epic forces. Xiao explained calmly. During the rogue attack, 2 brave 16-year-olds actually held their own against adult rogues until reinforcements arrived. The tribe hosted a massive tournament, selecting the 12 strongest underage fighters as support troops. They would just stay off the front lines. She just stared at our young beastmen with a very complicated, shocked expression. He always knew Green Mountain was stronger, but learning our cheerful teenagers could match fierce rogues was just on another level entirely. His own tribe's fighters could not help staring. "Moo, lie." And you confidently stared right back without flinching once. The other 9 stood incredibly tall under the scrutiny. She quickly recovered, cleared her throat, and ordered everyone to move out together toward Water Forest Tribe. Over 150 beast men marched together, their heavy footsteps kicking up massive dust clouds. Wild beasts sensed this epic force and scattered instantly. With Shin gone, I eagerly threw my entire focus right into working hard. I made a quick animal hide list, and the system instantly issued 3 new tasks. Teach planting, teach weaving baskets, and teach pottery crafting. The next day, Shi Yu arrived with 3 hand-picked sub-beasts who were highly reliable, very smart, and eager to learn. One was Rong Lin, whose partner Luo AI had been saved from a severe injury weeks ago. They were all absolutely thrilled just being chosen. I secretly bought another 100 pounds of potatoes and sweet potatoes overnight, bringing my epic stash to 190 pounds of each. It drained my energy reserves, but I couldn't afford being stingy about food security. I proudly showed them both crops, explained, eating them, and taught the entire planting process. Cutting potatoes into chunks with small sprout eyes. Dusting cuts using ash to prevent rot. Laying ash in holes for pest control. Placing pieces sprout side up, then joyfully covering with soft soil mounds. Can you believe this? I mentioned the insane yield. Enough potatoes to feed every sub-beast for 10 days, 16 days with sweet potatoes. Their eyes went super wide. Rong Lin immediately grasped the amazing bigger picture. If sub-beasts ate these crops, more hunted meat goes to beastmen, making them incredibly strong. Kai, you got thrilled about growing enough for winter. I had to temper their expectations. This was all I had, but each harvest could be replanted to massively multiply our food supply over time. We worked happily all day, managing to plant all the potatoes and 100 pounds of sweet potatoes. 90 pounds of sweet potatoes still needed planting tomorrow. Before Caillou left, I excitedly showed him the woven baskets I crafted from vines and bamboo. Animal hide bags felt super wasteful when cheap. Sturdy plant materials worked perfectly for our everyday carrying. And that is where we leave it. He agreed to bring more clever people tomorrow to learn weaving, while the trio finishes planting the sweet potatoes. Things were moving incredibly fast. Stick with me here. Even without Sean, I had plenty of things to do. That evening, I checked the system for upgrade progress. The news was honestly mixed. My defense, weapons, and daily contributions were on track for a winter level to upgrade. But there was a huge catch. Population. We needed 1,000 people. We only had 821. 179 more. And none of them could be dangerous to us. Plus, I simply could not force instant population growth. Babies obviously take years. The only answer was bringing in good outsiders. I really needed to discuss this with Sean when he returned. The very next morning, Kai, you arrived with new people. Rong Lin and the other 2 went straight to finish planting sweet potatoes. While Caillou introduced 3 young sub-beasts he specifically picked for weaving lessons. One was Ruya, the brave kid who brought herbs to save Lee earlier. He enthusiastically greeted me with a very cheerful, "Good morning." He literally picked that phrase up from me. The others copied him too. It was slightly awkward, but honestly pretty sweet. The other 2, Lu Shi and Shu Shu, were almost adults. They looked much sharper and way more energetic than the farming crew. All 3 crowded around excitedly as I handed out materials, happily chattering and inspecting absolutely everything. Being surrounded by young sub-beasts felt super weird. Technically, I belonged to their category in this world, but I still felt this strange distance, almost like hanging around the opposite gender. Strangely enough, I never felt that way around Shi En and the Beast Men. I was definitely the weird guy here. Zhao Yi pulled me aside privately. He explained these 3 were solid kids from good families. He really wanted me to finally make some true friends among the sub-beasts. Shi En and the Beast Men were awesome, but they sometimes missed little things that actually mattered to sub-beasts. He wanted me to have friends to talk with, laugh with, or even complain about beast men with. That genuine warmth hit me right in the chest. Since I arrived here, Zhao Yi never stopped trying to make me feel included. I will, I told him, and I completely meant it. Time to work. I taught them how to weave baskets using broad leaves and thin bamboo strips. Simple, common materials that were super easy to find. This method was way cheaper than using animal hides for carrying, and completely replaceable without waste. By the end of the day, all planting was totally finished, and my weaving lessons were going perfectly. I definitely missed this next part, but the story spread like wildfire once everyone returned. Now pay attention. As forces entered water forest territory, the terrain totally shifted. Mud everywhere, heavy, damp air clinging to everything. Lee stepped right into deep mud and totally freaked out, shaking his paw frantically and accidentally splashing mud all over Moo. Moo instantly retaliated by wildly waving his mud-covered paws around, sending even more messy mud flying everywhere. The other teens scattered immediately. Everyone in the tribe knew Shin had exactly one weakness. He was obsessively clean. He absolutely despised mud. People actually joked he was way fussier about staying clean than most sub-beasts. Shin was walking with his head down, clearly disgusted by the muddy ground. He did not notice the chaos until a massive chunk of mud smacked him directly in the face. He froze entirely. The other young beast men ran to hide behind the adults. Even Yeb backed away, shooting a pathetic look at Moo and Lai. Moo stammered a terrible excuse, blaming Lai, while Lai desperately tried deflecting it back to Moo. Dan and Dong exchanged glances, shaking their heads. Those two were completely doomed. Shin moved like actual lightning. One single paw slammed Moo flat. The other slammed Lai flat. Both face planted straight into the mud. Then he walked away without looking back. The adults watched this whole thing with pure amusement. Just kids being kids, and Shin teaching his little brothers a harsh lesson. Did you catch that too? They realized Shin flattened both guys using super casual, one-handed strikes. That level of raw power from a panther, a speed-focused beast form, not a strength one, was honestly absolutely extraordinary. The Stone Corner Beastmen felt the impact the most. Their tribe specialized in pure power forms. Rhinos, massive elephants, and bulls. They could replicate what Shin did, sure, but they could never match his speed. Chief Shi glanced at his son, Jian, who thought for a second before shaking his head. He could not beat Shin. Shi reflected heavily on the gap between their two tribes. Even when he and Zhao were young leaders in training, Green Mountain had always stayed a step ahead. First, Young dominated everyone. Then Zhao was backed by Lan and Yan. Now, they had Shin and 12 insanely talented teenagers. Green Mountain honestly never stopped getting stronger. His son gently nudged him, saying, "Watch the road, father." She looked deeply into Jian's calm, steady eyes and smiled to himself. His boy was plenty good enough. After all, Green Mountain had never picked their absolutely strongest fighter as chief either. They chose Sia, and look how well that turned out. Strength was not everything. That is where we leave it. I heard the whole story later, and honestly, it sounded totally miserable for anyone furry. Come along with me. The deeper they went into water forest territory, the wetter everything got. Mud everywhere. The damp air felt suffocating. The teens lost their spark and went totally quiet. Sean was in silent agony the entire trip. Sia noticed, telling the young ones to toughen up. Beastmen cannot let the environment weaken them. They must adapt and use unfamiliar terrain to their advantage. Entering the patrol zone, Fei flew ahead to find the water forest locals. But their greeting? Completely unexpected. A massive green python, literally a meter thick, with a giant barrel-sized head, rose up to meet Sia at eye level. One teenager almost attacked on pure reflex. The giant python just seemed amused by it. Then, snake number 2. A dark red python coiled overhead, silently dropping down until it hung just 1 meter from Sheen's face. Nobody even noticed this thing until it was right there. Sean spotted it first, completely tense for combat. Lai and Yi instantly flanked him, fangs bared, while Mu instinctively backed away. His bear form was useless against snakes on their home turf. These pythons? Water forest patrol beastmen. After having their fun terrifying the guests, they led everyone toward the tribe. The water forest setup was wildly different. Houses sat on dry patches, completely surrounded by water channels and thick mud pools. Some natural, some deliberately dug. Fallen tree bridges connected the isolated sections. A massive 100-meter muddy moat ringed the entire perimeter. Only a few narrow paths led inside the place. Everyone silently wondered the exact same thing. Now pay attention. With terrain this miserable, why target water forest instead of the easier Stone Corner tribe? It's a natural fortress. Those two python beastmen left them on a dry clearing 300 meters out, sliding into the muddy moat to fetch their village chief. Watching them vanish into that filthy water made every fur-covered beastman visibly shudder. Dan licked his lips, finally understanding Sheen's hatred for mud. Just imagining falling into that nasty water made him absolutely sick. Every teen nodded fiercely. They swore they would never, ever tease Sean about his neatness again. He was absolutely right. I actually learned the details of this crazy part later from the others. The tribe chief, a massive crocodile beastman named Gia, over 20 meters long, with cold yellow eyes and a totally icy voice. Surfacing from the village moat, he flat out told Sia his people were ready to move out whenever. Sia asked for one rest day so his fighters could adjust to this super wet environment. Gia noticed Sean and mentioned that his patrol scouts, those pythons from earlier, said the black cub made them feel genuinely threatened. Sia responded totally seriously. Sean had already surpassed Yong's absolute peak. Let that sink in. Coming from Sia, who actually battled the shadow beast, that means something huge. Next morning, Gia arrived early. He brought 70 beastmen, 20 more than the agreed 50. Water Forest hated these rogues that much. 20 of those 70 were young, freshly matured fighters. Sia totally noticed. Chief Shi from Stone Corner did too. Quietly relieved, he also brought extra young fighters and his own son. Before leaving, Sean asked Xia the big question bothering everyone. Why target Water Forest when the terrain is literally this difficult? Xia overheard, telling Xia to just explain it. The kids would figure it out anyway. Xia laid it out. Water Forest beastmen had forms built strictly for water. Snakes, crocodiles, all aquatic creatures. On land, they were way slower than other tribes, relying purely on ambush tactics. Some couldn't leave water for long. Their sub-beasts lived on land, unable to survive water, making them super vulnerable to fast attackers. Rogues could strike fast, grab the sub-beasts, and flee before Water Forest fighters could ever catch them on land. But here is the catch. If a sub-beast reached water with just one local protecting them, they were absolutely safe. In water combat, nobody beats these guys. Plus, their other massive advantage was pure stealth, appearing completely silently. If you don't detect them before they strike, you've already lost half the battle. Dragged underwater? Game over. Shen simply nodded, looking completely thoughtful. Their strengths and weaknesses are obvious, easy to exploit. Xia then addressed his young fighters. Think about maximizing your massive advantages and minimizing your weaknesses in real combat. This mission wasn't just about stopping rogues. All three chiefs were training their next generation. That's where we leave it. True leaders turn every moment into a lesson. And Sia was glad he shared that instinct. Stick with me. 3 wild tribes are quietly gearing up for one epic showdown. 10 days after Shen left, I finally got Xiuyi and the crew making massive baskets. Honestly, my poor hands were completely wrecked by those sharp bamboo strips and leaves. Building those huge baskets was way harder than the tiny practice ones. Ruya, Lucy, and Shushu were super eager, but totally impatient. They kept begging to learn fresh skills, but I stayed firm. They had to completely master weaving before teaching anyone else. I finally explained my big plan. I wanted them to be actual teachers, passing skills to every sub-beast in our tribe. The word teacher was totally foreign, but once they realized it meant acting like the beastmen trainers. But for sub-beasts, they got incredibly serious and instantly threw themselves back into practice. Meanwhile, I got amazing news from the farming team. Rong Lin came sprinting over to announce that the potatoes and sweet potatoes I planted on moving. Day had sprouted. You and I know how huge this is. Seeing those tiny shoots meant my world's food could actually survive here in this soil. The rest would definitely sprout in 2 weeks. Then, I showed our 3 weavers my very own handmade clay cups. They were completely amazed. Lighter than solid stone, prettier, and way easier to physically shape. I promised to teach the whole tribe once enough beastmen were free to haul clay from outside our patrol zone. The 3 little streams inside simply could not provide enough raw material for absolutely everyone. That's when things got completely hilarious. I casually mentioned how Shin and I spent all morning digging clay and the afternoon shaping it. Immediately, all 3 sub-beasts totally froze and just stared at me with the weirdest expressions. I know what you're thinking. Confused, I asked why. They gleefully explained that Shin absolutely despised mud more than anything in the world. When he turned 14, some kids accidentally splashed him with mud during a fight. He chased 4 of them down and completely wrecked them, even 2 guys who were older than him. After that, he reportedly jumped into a stream, scrubbing himself so furiously that people actually thought he wanted to rip his own fur out. But this exact same Shin happily spent all morning digging creek mud with me, then an entire afternoon squishing wet clay between his bare fingers without complaining once. I sat there, speechless. You see where this is going, right? The guy they described didn't match mine at all, or maybe he did, just not how I realized yet.